nation, destroys our generation. I don't mind. I don't mind. I don't mind. I don't mind. Looking for inspiration in my life. Looking for inspiration all the time. Looking for, looking for, looking for, looking for. Hey!
And good evening, everybody. Welcome to Spline Design Studios Saturday. Obviously getting off to a late start, and I apologize for that. I'm kind of stumbling on myself here. I need to set one thing I did forget to do, and I've kind of all discombobulated here. I need to start up the uptime. There we go. So that's going to be a little bit off. Didn't get that thing going, I guess, prior to the start stream, so we got it up there now. So I think we're all good there. So welcome everybody. Hope we're all ready here. I'm gonna actually get some mood music on here. Give me a second. Let's do this. Alright, hopefully that should work there. So let's turn this down just a tad. Yeah, it's kind of put a little bit of ambient music in there, so it's not entirely dead. I guess when I'm not speaking there. Kind of working with some other royalty-free type of stuff, so hope this will work much better than it has in the past. Glad to have everybody here. Hope everybody's been having a good weekend so far. For most of us, and wherever you happen to be in this lovely world. So I get some things opened up here. Trying to remember exactly where we left off. I haven't done a whole lot of work on the things since last stream, but we were working on a couple of objects for our scratch track build for the Charlotte Roval. So yeah, that's Torch already giving himself a shot. Welcome in there, Torch there, one of our latest subscribers, the VIPs to the channel. Appreciate that. Welcome, Torch. I'm glad to have you. Hope your day is going well. Yeah, let me get some things loaded here for a second here. Like I said, I apologize for the late start. Completely unprepared. Had some things come up, I guess, prior to being able to get started on time. That's really no excuse, but we'll get these things going here. So I need to get... Okay, that's up. Got the uptime going. Okay. I don't even have any of the folders or anything open yet, so bear with me here, folks. So I got... Do let me know if the musics are too loud. I'll adjust the audios appropriately if need be. Trying to create a little bit of ambience in the back there. So okay, let's go here. We got our Charlotte Roval build. Okay, so that's good to go. I'm gonna go ahead and just bring this right over. You can see what I've got going on here. So I don't have anything loaded yet, but I've got the latest PTF that we were working with as far as the two objects that we applied, be it the bus stop and the chicane objects. I did a little bit of work, and I posted out there, I guess, on the Spline Designs group page, as well as the Discord, and tweeted it out as far as what I had made adjustments to our two objects that we made previously. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this loaded up here. I'm gonna go this way rather than double clicking on the PTF. Like I said, I didn't get any of this going here. It's just like I just kind of like, I gotta get the stream going. Yeah, so let me get this second to load. Oh, I forgot I had this open here. I tried working a little bit more on trying to get the zoom working on the segment data, I guess. On the I haven't been able to something better out there other than the Windows magnifier, so we'll have to see what else we can come up with there. So let's get the track loaded here. I'll kind of briefly go over what has already been done, and we'll just kind of move on from there. Okay, so we got our track loaded. I'm gonna go ahead and do an unlock here for the sake of it. Alright, so one of the things I was able to make some adjustments to is this chicane area as well as the bus stop. So I'll just kind of, again, just go over this really quickly. Tweeted this out, but for those that may have necessarily not seen that information, I've kind of gotten this roughly into place. The texture is not final. The texture that's on it will definitely be, done up a little better, so it doesn't look quite so crappy. But I did some testing in the sim itself or whatever I came to the conclusion that there's some clipping of this object. You got the actual geometry is bleeding through the object there, so might have to do some adjustments there. I'm keeping it in my to-do list too for this track that I gotta adjust this infield object. We got that poking through the geometric walls here, so that's gonna have to be done eventually. What the main focus has been thus far is to get the track capable of being able to lay down the LP files, to get the race LPs and what have you. Here's the other object that I've worked on a little bit. It's not 100%. What I want to do for the most part on this object is get this painted line to kind of go more in the center of this here, because based on the picture, see if I can bring that up here really quick. Going to my track pictures here. I think I got that under here. Folders on top of folders. So yeah, I think that's under the Lowe's build. 18. There we go. So the real picture that I got here, as you can see, the painted line kind of goes through that. You can see where they painted over the actual, for the main oval, they painted right over that top of that, and you can see that. That's what I tried to mimic here, if I can bring it up. So that's what I tried to mimic here. I need to get this line on the object, as far as the red here, to get more onto, I gotta get this edge onto that, and I can do that more than likely, I guess, by adjusting the texture at this point. It's not quite where it needs to be. So that might be something we'll tackle, to kind of make some finite adjustments to that. But this object here doesn't seem to, other than a little bit of mapping issues, I think there's a little bit of skewing or misskewing of the texture. This should be a lot straighter. So I might have to play around with the wire mesh, as far as the wire map for the object. For the most part, it lines up pretty good. Not too bad as far as in comparison to the wall. A lot of this can probably be adjusted with just the texture itself, as far as the way the transparency behind the texture is presenting itself. So not too entirely terrible there.
You and your team need to get.
Oh, you gotta love ads.
Monday.com, it's easy.
Don't mind the ads, folks.
Just add the workflow that suits you. Whether you're
that should go away in a second.
Or a big organization, everyone will know who's doing what.
So that's one of the things that we'll be able to do. So we got that one in place and this one in place. And I have done, like I said, I've done some testing.
On the go with our mobile apps and see exactly who's responsible.
The heck?
With just a few
Let's
clicks.
skip this ad here. There we go. That's better. I guess I had to skip it. Sorry about that, folks. But yeah, I have been able to do some testing in the sim to come to that determination that there's some clipping on, at least on this object, and so I'm going to correct that, or try to, before I can make some laps on this to make some new LPs. And I can kind of show in the sim. In fact, I'll probably have to do that anyway. What I do know for sure, and I've kind of just going by picture memory here, there's a lot of clipping on the beginning edge of this. Not so much over here, but more in this area. So I'll have to probably go into that and correct a lot of that. It doesn't show in the actual 3ds Max. So it's primarily being caused with how the track geometry is being rendered within the sim itself. And we've come to this conclusion with the way the sim, the way it works, that you have to test it in the sim to know what needs to be adjusted from that point. So you can't necessarily just go by what's going on just in sandbox or what have you. You have to go into the sim, see how it's presenting itself, and then adjust it from there. That's just the nature of the beast, I guess, for the Inter 2003 simulation. So yeah, we're just have to deal with that. What I could probably at least do is bring up max, because I'm going to have to adjust this model, like I said, because it's very noticeable and it's very irritating as far as to try to do a solid lap with that object clipping the way it does. Actually, let me go ahead and close the height view on this really quick. Let's do that. Yeah, we'll turn that off. We don't need that for now. So let me load up 3ds Max here. This will take a second to load here, and I'll load in the object for the chicane, at least anyway. And we'll take a look at what's going on with that and adjust it. And then we'll probably look into redoing the texture for the bus stop. That's on the... Alright, so we'll get this loaded up. Alright, let's import... I'm trying to remember if I got that in the scene or if I got... Let me check here a second. Give me a second here. So I go... Yeah, let me just go back this way. Go back to... I'm going to need this folder, actually. So let me bring this up in a new folder. Yeah, let's do that. Let's do... Wait a minute. Did I step on? Yes, I did. Okay. So this I'll leave open. And then what I want to do is open this in a new window. There we go. Go to mesh items. All my Charlotte stuff. 18. Here we go. So I think... I gotta remain. Yeah, so I did put those in separate folders, as I mentioned, because I had this all... I had that all loose. I gotta love the ads. Hold on, folks. Alright, just skip that. Seriously? What is with the ads? Yeah, if I'd have known there was going to be that much ads, I wouldn't have used this approach here, but... Oh, it's a work in progress. I guess as far as getting some ambient music going on. But anyway, yeah, like I was saying, I had these all loose as of last week. And what I've since done, since making those objects there, I've put those in their own folders. So be it this is for the bus stop, as far as the textures, the pass files in here, as well as the 3DS. And I jotted down the coordinates for it and all that stuff. So I can open... now I'm just going to remember, I think I want to go by this 3DS as opposed to the scene file. I do have a scene file, which is over here for the bus stop and chicane. So I might just go ahead and use the 3DS. Because what I want to do is segregate both those objects anyway. So I got... This is the previous bus stop one that I made there. That was based on a low poly spline. What I've since done, besides that, is just using the actual geometry of the track via just chunking out the piece of the DAE. We went through all that last week, so I won't go through that again. So I think what I'm going to do is just import this 3DS. That's going to be based on this pass file, which is directly what I have in the track. That's what I have installed in the track at the present. So yeah, I think I'll do that. I'll go ahead and load that 3DS. I'll import, navigate to that folder. The fact that I still have the scene file to fall back on, that's a definite plus if I need to. For now, I am just going to go ahead and load the chicane. Oh, I had that on. Yeah, I need the chicane, not the bus stop. Okay. and I want to completely replace. I don't want to convert. Okay, so here's our chicane object, and this is, again, this is based on the geometry of the track. You know, it's based on the DAE, you know, applying the contrasting texture to pull that off of the original track geometry. So again, went all over that. So I want to apply the texture to this. So let's open up the material editor, apply the texture to it. We're gonna do standard, so we can apply the diffuse. Alright, and we're going to navigate to that folder. So we got that. Track projects. So we go to, whoops, nope, I got to go to 3D meshes. Here we go. 3D meshes. Charlotte, 18, and then chicane. That's what we're working on here. So I want to apply the TGA, because that has the alpha on it. Okay. Image alpha, this is what we want. So we do that, and we're going to apply, and that'll show up on here. So all the pink areas are going to be the not visible. So that's all going to be. The only thing you're going to see is this, and that's what you see on the track here. It's just this part. So this is all transed out on the edges there. So what we're going to attempt to do here, and like I said, I'm just going by my visual memory as far as testing it out there, and there was a lot of clipping on this end, so I'm gonna have to play around with I don't need to touch this end. This end was fine as far as on this end of the object itself. It's just down here. So what I'll probably end up doing, and this is something that I kind of hinted on, I guess, before, I'm gonna create a texture that gives me an idea of where the problem areas are. And I might even necessarily apply that to the MIP, so that when I go into the sim, I can kind of get a rough idea of where I need to make the changes. So it'll be a one-to-one representation. So this is, because this is contoured, you know, this is exactly what we see in the sim. I can change the texture in here as well as in the game. You know, put a, you know, some type of pinpoint, you know, a target to say, okay, it's below or ahead of that target. So what I'm going to do is open up Paint Shop and do that and apply that to the texture. So let's go navigate back there over to here and go into the chicane, and I'm going to open up, I got this in the layer, open up the layers here. So what I'm going to do here, I might already have this. So I got this all segregated out. So I got the SAD image here. This is where it's, okay, that's our trans color. And then this is with it, yeah, chunked out there. Okay, so that's what I got here. So now what I want to do is I want to apply like a line towards the end of this here, so I can get like a reference point as to where the potential problem areas are in this model. You know, the parts that are clipping the geometry through it. So let's change our color here. Alright, and then we're going to apply a line. And let's change the thickness on this a little bit. We'll keep the anti-alias off. So we want to put it towards the end of this here. So I'm going to probably just dissect right about, let's see, what layer am I on? Just to make sure. Yeah. I could put this in another layer. In fact, I'll do that. That way I can kind of change the line if I need to. So I'll put this in another layer, so I'm not touching the original texture. So I'm going to put this on here like so. And that'll be our reference line as far as, okay, well, where is it clipping? Is it ahead of this? You know, how far from that point in there? I can probably put another one in if I need to, but I can always adjust the texture as we go. I'll kind of show how this works here in a moment. So I'm going to merge and flatten this, and I'm going to do File, Save As, and I'm going to do this as a new texture. Yeah, I'll do it as a bitmap for starters, but I'm going to rename. Okay, I know what I'll do. I got an idea. So go ahead. Yeah, I can always revert it back. That's fine. Yeah, the fact that I got that in a layer, I can always get that texture back. So I'm going to do it this way. I'm going to overwrite that one. Yeah, because I've got the template, you know, as far as the layers, that's not going to be too much of a problem to get that texture back. I got to go back to chicane. I had the wrong one. This is the one we're working in. I don't want to confuse anybody. Alright, so what I did was I made a new bitmap with that line on there. So now I can make a new TGA based on that, and that'll show in max. Okay. So I need to open up our WinMip2 utility to do that. We're going to need to make a new MIP that will apply in the track itself, so you can see that same line. Okay, this is on the bus stop. We gotta go to the chicane. Okay, we need to go to the chicane folder, open this up, and we're gonna make a TGA. So we're gonna set this to TGA, and then I'm gonna do the left shift, hover the pointer over the magenta color, and then you get that swath in there, so that I know that's applied as an invisible color. Okay, and then I'm going to save that to that folder. We'll just overwrite that one. We can always get that back. That's not a big deal. So we'll close that. We'll keep the WinMip2 utility open for now at least. Keep that open. And what I'll do from here is open up that TGA that we just made. And now I'm going to make a new MIP. Don't need to change any of the parameters. Everything's fine. Still got our transparent color, and it's going to have this on here, and we want that. And I'll show you why in a second. So we'll do save as, and I'll just make the MIP right within that folder, and I'll just copy it over to our track edit folder. So here's our new MIP. We're going to cut this over to our track edit folder and overwrite that. Yes. And now we're going to reload the track, and you'll kind of get a better idea of what I'm trying to do here. So we'll do file new, do a no. We didn't do any changes there, so we're just going to reload this, and what that's going to do is that's going to load that texture that I just made with that reference line, and this is going to give me a much better idea as to what part of this object is clipping based on this line. So is it ahead of it or behind it, and how far away from that line. Like I said, I could probably put another line in here without a problem, you know, just to kind of get a secondary. In fact, I might just do that because it's clipping like several spots roughly in the area, so just to kind of highlight that area that it's causing that issue. So I should be able to see the same texture on here, same way. So it's a 1-to-1 representation. It's throwing in the same spot here as it is as it is here. So I'll just zoom this out. So this is a 1-to-1, so you can kind of get an idea here. So this object here, you can see where the object is here. That line is showing in the same spot as it is here, and that's what we want. In order to determine where it is, we need to adjust it on the model. So I'm going to apply another line to this. Let's zoom in on this, still in that same layer. I'm going to apply another line right about here. Straighten it up just a tad. Make it somewhat neat at least anyway. There, so something like that. So now I'll do another layers, merge, all flatten. File, save as. We'll do that as a bitmap. Save a new TGA. Go into WinMip2. Open that bitmap. So now we have the two lines in there now. Set this to TGA. Left shift. Get that. Point that on there and just left click the color you want to be your invisible color, which is the magenta. And save that as a new TGA. Close that TGA, and now open that TGA back up and apply that as a MIP. Don't change anything. Again, we'll just save it right in that same folder, and we'll cut it over to our folder. So we'll go from here, cut that out, paste it into our track edit folder. Overwrite that one, yes. Now we'll have to reload the track. Get that texture to load. Whoops. Do a new. Open, and there we go. So that should have the 2 lines on it now. I think that'll work much better because it's such a wide area. It's a vast area as far as where the clipping is occurring. So this is going to help determine where exactly. So what I'll do from this point is I'll take that actual MIP and put that in our track folder, and we'll go into the sim and we'll actually see where it's starting to clip based on this reference point here, as far as how far it is from this line or this line, if it's in here or what have you. That'll make more sense when I show it that way. So let's I think for now I'm gonna go ahead. I really hate to keep both these applications going when I'm in the sim itself, but we're gonna give it a try. I guess if it crashes we'll just have to reopen, but hopefully it won't. I usually don't make it a habit of keeping those applications open while I'm in the sim there. So give me just 1 second, and I'm gonna get the wheel set up here. I'm gonna go test this in the game. Actually, what I'll do first, before I do that, I need to put that texture that we just freshly created into the sim itself. So let's navigate to that. I want to show that process. At least you need to put it in. If you want to see it in the sim, you need to have it in there. So we still have that same object that we're working with both in Sandbox as well as Max. That same model is still in the track, so nothing's changed in that regard. So all we need to do is just apply the texture, the new texture to it. Again, that'll all be a 1-to-1, so we're going to overwrite that one we have in there. So just to show that process. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to set this to the be right back, and I'll get the wheel set up, and then we'll go from there. So don't go nowhere. Okay. Try not to take too long there. Let me turn this down a little bit. I want those to be too loud there. Do let me know, like I said, as far as if the audio seemed to be too too bad you don't paste a ruler on it. What kind of ruler? What kind of ruler did you mean there, Torch? Oh yeah, are you talking about being able to highlight, I guess, the areas? Yeah, this is pretty much the same idea, if that's what you meant. Yeah, the sound levels on the mic there are kind of pegging out there, so I apologize for that. I don't know why it's doing that. What? Yeah, hopefully that's not... Okay, that should be better, I hope. Okay, so... one last thing I need to set up here is the profiler. So let me do that really quick. Got several profiles in here for different games. So I'll just set this up on our simulation and we'll load that up. I'm hoping with that. I usually, like I said, don't make it a habit of running the simulation while I've got Sandbox and 3ds Max open. I can probably more than do that without a problem, but I try not to. It uses a lot of, especially when streaming it, the whole process here. So yeah, we're gonna test this out here. We put the texture into the sim as I showed. So we'll be able to see that texture in the sim here. So I'm not going to make a full lap on here. Probably what I'll end up doing is when I spawn in here, I'm going to go ahead and just go right to that point. So we're just going to kind of go this way. And let me put this in a different view. There we go. Let's kind of do the Jesus mode. There we go. That's what I call the Jesus mode. So we're going to go right over to our chicane object here. You can see some of the LP files that we have in there currently. So there's our 2 reference points. So you can see where the clipping is presenting itself. So we got some clipping right there on the one line that we applied there, as well as ahead of that towards the edge. As well as there's some, I believe, right here as well. Yep, just a little bit on the tip here. You can see that. This is what we need to fix as far as our model is concerned. Oh, I forgot I got a shift here. There we go. Yeah, so we got a spot below this line, this first line there. There's a little bit of clip there. So we'll have to adjust that. And then there's one right on the line. I was pretty close on that. I was trying to highlight that. That's almost like right on that line towards the edge. See how that's clipping? And it's very super duper annoying. If I put this in this view here, you can probably get an idea of just how distracting it is as far as trying to do to lay down some LP files, because you can see that clipping. Pay no attention, I guess, to the lines that I apply to the texture. Those usually aren't there. That's the ones I just applied, but you can see the clipping right there, as well as especially right there. Everything else actually is fine. There's no problems through here. It's relatively pretty good there. In fact, I can put this in the camera view. We need to make some cameras for this yet too. Eventually I want to do that. So let's get out of the car. So you can see they present themselves in the replay of the 2. You can see the clipping there as well as down there. There's really no other clipping. I saw one little spot right there. Let me back that up. Back that up a little bit. Yeah, right over the car's right over it actually. There's a little bit of clipping right there. And I noticed there's some over here too, now that I think of it. And there's a little bit of lifting right here too. I just happened to notice that. I missed this here too. So the fact that you can actually see the texture underneath the object, so that's something else that has to be dealt with. We don't want that. That's not good. Now, as far as how much the tires, that's something else. You see how much the car itself is actually clipping there through the object. That's, you know, next to not terrible for the best way. I mean, you're going to get some clipping here. I mean, it's pretty good right here. But you can see as I go through here, yeah, see, it's already starting to clip on the nose. Yeah, and it clips really good in through here. So we might have to make some adjustments in here anyway. I stand corrected. This clipping right here is just basically the transition. That has nothing to do with the object. That's just the geometry of the track. So that we can't do much about. That's always going to happen. Let's kind of look at this again here. So you can see how it kind of clips on the nose here a little bit on the edge. That's the object clipping through the car. And as he gets onto the flat, it's not entirely terrible. So we'll have to lift this area, obviously. But mostly all through here, it's good. There it starts to clip. There it really starts to clip. Through the nose. Not too bad on the tires. Yeah, it clips. I guess it clips a little bit more worse than I thought it did. I guess I was primarily just looking at how much of the grass that's underneath it was clipping through like it is on the other end. So, yeah, there's probably a little bit more adjustment than I thought. And these are the types of things you need to check when you're doing these types of things. I mean, it's completely adjustable. Don't get me wrong. It's not entirely that difficult. These areas can be adjusted, and it's just as simple as putting some reference lines on your texture to know where the adjustments need to be made. So what I could even do, I can adjust the texture even further to pinpoint these areas that do need to be fixed. So I can put a line somewhere through this region to see how close to that reference line that I need to adjust this type of thing as well. The edge shouldn't be too hard to determine, because that needs to obviously come down, because that's showing the texture underneath the object. So that just needs to come down on the edge towards this edge, not this edge. It's probably clear. This edge here towards this edge of the object is fine. That's not clipping all that much, but it's more towards from the center over this way. So okay, point. So we got our observations taken. So we're going to go ahead and make our adjustments appropriately. Alright, so I don't know if I can necessarily work with this wheel in the way, so I'm just going to stick it back over to BRB really quick, and I'll be back in just a moment. Alright, taking incredibly too hard just to kind of scoot the wheel out of the way there. Alright, let's turn that down a little bit. Okay. So moving right along. So we've got a rough idea of where our adjustments need to be made. So we're going to go ahead and make those adjustments. So we already know, based on what we saw in the sim, it needs to be lifted up right in this area, as far as right on this line. So between this point, all this edge here, that needs to be lifted. So that's because the grass texture that's below the object is clipping through. Okay. So that's what we'll do for starters. Yeah. I'm just trying to think ahead there a little bit, because what I'll eventually end up doing is creating a new scene that's just for the chicane. That way it'll make it easier as far as moving forward. Right, so as opposed to the scene that I have, the starter scene that I have with both the chicane and the bus stop in there, that aren't in the 0 transform, as far as the 0, 0, 0 on the X, Y, and Z. Once I get this done here, I'll have this as a reference to go back to making adjustments later on down the road. So we'll eventually make a scene for this. For now, we're just going to keep making 3ds as well as a pass file. So we'll have to keep transitioning back from this version of Max to, and I could probably do a lot of this in Max 5 to do the pass file, but we'll see how this goes. Most of the changes I need to make is just going to be all vertex changes. It's not really anything else. So, alright, so what I need to do, the clipping was happening like right in the middle here, right on this line. So I don't really want to mess with this all that much. I want to probably just mess with this edge here. So we're going to start with that. We're going to select these. We're going to have to test it in the sim, obviously. So between these two sets of vertices, I'm going to go like this, and I'm just going to bring it up a tick this way. I'm not going to grab it this way. Okay? I don't want to do that because that'll be too much. So I'm going to go up a tick, maybe a couple ticks. And I might even go third tick. I'm just looking at... Is that even moving? Hold on a second. I see the transform moving. Okay, it did move. Okay, just checking. So I'm just undoing all that. I'm seeing, you can barely see it move. It's barely moving, and that's what I want. I want subtle movements. I don't want a drastic move. Okay. So now it's back to where I started. So let me go ahead and select this. And I'm going to go up. I went up 3 ticks. 2, 3. Alright, we'll try that. And then also on the very tip here, it was ahead of this line, so roughly about this area. So I'm going to do it from this point. I'll bring this up a couple ticks on the Z. Oh, and you know what? Shoot, hold on. I think did I adjust the wrong? I think I did. Hold on. I'm going to go back here for a second. Yeah, I did. I goofed. I did the wrong I did the Y instead of the Z. So let me select those again. I was wondering why it was moving kind of goofy. So let me zoom in on this. So I want to do that on the Z because I want to lift that up because it's too low. And I may have already had it that way, I'm not sure. So that's 3 ticks there. Maybe I did have it on a Z, I don't remember. I just backed it all out and started over, just to make sure. Okay, now I'm going to go to this point and bring that up on the Z. Okay, we'll do 2 ticks there. See how that goes. And then on this edge, kind of select this over here and zoom in on it. On this edge, and that would be from the center point over, it's too high, so I got to drop it down. So what I want to do is probably go from this point over and bring that down. So let's do that. So I'm going to do from this point, and this point, and I'm going to take that down on the Z. We'll do that about 3 ticks. Whoops. Hold on, I got to back that up there. I missed the vert. Let's back that out. Okay. I need this, this, and this. Okay, I'm making sure I got 2 there, 2 there, and 2 there. Alright, take that down. 3 ticks. We'll do that. See how that works. And if that's too, if it ends up being too low, we can always bring it up a tick. So there is some clipping up in this area. I might have to adjust the texture because it was like roughly in this area, I want to say. It might have been this area as far as where it needed to come down. There was one point there where it was down too low. See, this is where I might have to apply a texture to that to kind of determine where that was at. So I think I'll do that. Let's go ahead and adjust our texture. I'll back this up so we get the layers back. Okay. This is all in, prelim, I guess. We need to get rid of that clipping so it's not so much of a distraction as far as being able to lay down a decent race LP. The other LPs aren't as much of an issue. It's that race LP that needs to count. So this could necessarily be considered OCD, but it's really not, because having that distraction as far as that clipping of the object, that could potentially ruin your race LP. So you need to have some logical, I guess, visual cue, I guess, to navigate yourself through this area of the track. That's the method to my madness there. Alright, so I want to put a line right here. That looks good. So we'll go ahead and layers, merge all, flatten that, make another bitmap. Like so. And then we'll open that up in our WinMap 2 utility. So now that'll have that line there. Create a TGA. Left shift. Select that as a swath. For the magenta, make a TGA. Close that. And then we want to reopen that TGA that we just created. So now that's all in there. Create a MIP. Don't need to change the parameters for this particular object anyway. Now if your texture was if your model that you're applying the texture for, if you needed to adjust the mapping as far as for vertical repetition or horizontal repetition, and adjust that appropriately. But for this particular model, we keep it at a map of 3. Just a fair mention. Alright, so save that. Close that. And we should be able to grab that MIP. And I'm going to cut it here. Put it in our track edit folder for one. Yes, and then we're going to also copy it over to our game track folder. So we need to see it in the sim. Okay. And then I'm almost half tempted. I think I'll go ahead and do that. I will do that. I'm going ahead and make a backup of this 3DS just in case something goes array here. I don't want to lose this information that we got here. So I'm going to go ahead and export this, at least as a 3DS. Get that set up. Save myself the agony, I guess, of losing this potentially. Alright, so go to Charlotte, 18, chicane. Set this to 3DS. I don't want to step on this one just yet, so I'm going to name this as new. I'm just going to put a little tag on it and put new. And I can always rename that once it's all good to go after the fact, post fact. Yep. Don't worry about that, and we'll just verify that it did do that. There's my new 3DS, so I know I'm good there. So if 3DS Max would happen to crash or anything like that, I can always revert back. I do have auto backup, but just, you know, just reassurance, just to make sure I don't lose any of this adjustments that I've made so far. You could necessarily go so far, I guess, to make a scene. What I want to do is eventually just make a scene once the changes are finalized. That's my thought on that. So it's like once the changes are legit and everything's good to go there, then I'll save a scene of that. So then I know it's all fine and good. Okay, so I've put the new MIP into the track. We won't see any changes to the model itself as of yet. What I want to be able to do for now is at least just pinpoint that area on this end here where it was clipping, you know, as far as where it was too high and where it was clipping on that end. So let me go ahead and reopen the track so I can get the new texture on it, for one. Haven't made any changes to the track other than the texture. No geometry changes or anything like that, so I can just do a new. Open and just reopen the PTF. You know, so as far as models go, that's what you need to do to get the new texture to populate. So now we got the new texture on there, so that's good there. We'll also be able to see this in the sim itself. Okay. Got the same texture in there. Like I said, it's a 1-to-1. Let me just back this out here for a second, so we'll probably need to make another change eventually. So let me see, without putting the BRB on, I can just go ahead and put the, hopefully it doesn't make too much racket. So just give me a second here and I'll get the wheel back over here and we'll go back into the sim and go check it out. Hopefully you don't hear too much noise. Okay. So yeah, the one thing I guess I get worried about is just making too much noise as far as just, you know, the clunking and clanging around as far as to get the wheel back set up. I've just got it off to the side here, so it's with the fact that I gotta get it worked around the mic stand or whatever. That's all right. So got that all set up there. So let's go ahead and reload profile here and we'll launch the sim. So what we should be able to see, we're not going to see any changes to the actual object itself, the model itself. Even though we made the changes in Max, we haven't created a new pass and put it in there. What I want to be able to do is with that new texture, where I applied that towards the exit of that chicane, I want to be able to determine where exactly, based on that line, I need to adjust it on the model, so that I can make all those adjustments all together, so then I can make a new model to put it in there. So let's go into testing mode, go into our track, and go to drive. There we go. I'm gonna drive right over to that area.
Start your day with Sabra breakfast avocado toast.
Oh, sorry for the ads.
Try it today.
Okay, that wasn't too bad. I might have to look into another playlist, I guess, as far as I thought maybe that would work for us. So yeah, so we can see that reference line now. This is based on our new texture here, so we'll be able to determine. Oh wow, you can really see where it lifts. Wow. Okay, so it kind of lifts up. You can kind of see that how it's warps the line. Let me back this up. You can see on the right side there how much higher that is there. I can't point at it, but I'll put my nose of the car. You can see where it's raised right here and where it drops rather abruptly, actually. So I got a lot of adjustment to make there. I kind of hit that right on the head, actually, before it drops there where I put that line. That was a complete guess, but you see how that benefits. You can see how that benefits being able to determine where you need to make the adjustments on your model based on your texture. So right where this line is, towards the edge of it, is where I need to adjust that for where it drops too much. But it's also way too high on this side. You can see that warp in the line there. So I need to make an adjustment there as well. Okay, so that's some good information. So we'll get out of that. Yeah, you can really see it here too. So yeah, I can kind of point at that. You can see how it's all raised right here. Here, let me stop that. So on this side of the line here, it's low here and it's raised up here. You can see how that line kind of warps there, as opposed to being nice and straight across and flat. So yeah, we've definitely got some adjustments to make there. Alrighty then, so let's get out of this. And we'll apply those appropriate changes. Back right out. Alrighty then, so we'll close that out, hide that. Okay, now I'm just going to move the wheel back out of the way for a second here. Just give me a minute. There we go. We don't have too far to go. It's a good thing. So yeah, now what we can do based on that information, I can adjust it where I need to. So the fact that right on this line, right about this spot, it's low, and on this side it's high. So let me go ahead and just kind of tip this. Yeah, I can kind of see that too. If I kind of put this on a side view, you can kind of see that too. It's high right here and it's too low over here. Okay, so we're going to make those adjustments. So go into vertex here, we're going to adjust the spot, and we're going to go down 2 ticks on that. Okay, and then right about here, we need to come up a couple ticks. So that should hopefully smooth that out a little bit. This almost looks like it just needs to come down even more yet. Alright, let me bring this down a little bit more. A little more. I'm going to smooth that out there a little bit. Okay, let's bring this up another couple ticks. It almost looks like it's not moving the actual model itself. What's going on there? What the heck? That's like a loose vert. That's interesting. Okay, let me back this up. Okay, it is moving it. Interesting. Nope, it is moving it. Okay, just double checking. It looks like it was just floating there. Almost looks like it's pretty wavy in here now too. Let me put this on a complete side view. There we go. Yeah, you can see it's still dipping right here too, so I might have to adjust that spot.
Michael tried Tostitos scoops and salsa, and he started following them in real life. Tostitos.
Sorry for the ads, folks. Yeah, that was a short one. Okay. Okay, that's good. Yeah, so I got this spot right here. It's still a little low, so I'll bring this up a couple ticks. Oops, wrong way. Went down instead of up. Alright. Put that on a side view. Yeah, you can really start to see how wavy that is there. So let me bring this back down. I want to reserve the, as far as trying to grab this and just use the arrows here. Okay, so we're going to try that. Still looks pretty dang gum wavy. So I already know what's good here. So down here we brought it down. Man, that's got a huge... Wow. But the effect on this end is actually showing good. So I don't want to mess with that, but I can really see the difference here as far as how low it is here, and it kind of like a little hump right there. I don't want to mess with that. That was showing good as far as in the sim itself, so that may be just a problem with the elevation that we have in the actual track geometry too. So okay. Let's see. Well, see, the thing is, Torch, the geometry that I have in the track itself is based on the LiDAR. So that's kind of a one-to-one there, I guess, as far as that goes. The track geometry is already in conformity to the LiDAR, if you will. So the fact that I'm using the DAE, this is basically right from the track geometry, as far as this model that's created here. This is right off the DAE. That has the LiDAR information in it. So, but what's really concerning me, I guess, at this point is just how much... Racer James, how we doing? How are you on this fantabulous day? So you can see me struggle, I guess, with this object here. I'm really starting to really coming to find just how much non-conformity there is, I guess you could say, as far as with this object. Be it the fact that it is based on the actual geometry of the track. Yeah, so we've been testing some things. So basically what I've done, just to kind of give you a lowdown, kind of put it in a nutshell. What I did was I put reference points on the texture itself to know where to adjust the model as far as where it's clipping in the sim itself, and just adjust it that way. So I've got these lines on here. We've taken reference in the sim itself to determine that there's some clipping in this area, as well as on this edge, as well as right on this line. So that's what I'm in the process of doing. So I think what I'll do at this point, just to test this in the sim, is I'm going to create a 3ds for this. So I'm going to do an export. And I'm still going to do this as a new. I'm not going to step on this one just yet. I want to have something to fall back on. Alright, so we're going to do this as new. Yes. And I'm going to have to switch over to the other version of Max, obviously. But let me confirm that that saved that. Which that should be right here. So that's set right there. That is, I'm going to make sure it's the right date on it. Good deal. Alright, so what I can do from this point, and I should have done that too. I'm going to do that. I need to open up my directory for my Make 3DO. So I'm going to go to that. And I've shown this before as far as I like to put the Make 3DO utility in my programs folders. Just because it is a program. Just to me it makes sense. It may behoove you, I guess, to go ahead and and actually put that in a more reasonable location, I guess, as far as so what I need to do is at least copy over this TGA for now, and I need to produce a pass file yet based on that new model. So let's put this over here. Oh yeah, and that's the only reason why I make that that point there, James. I don't like it in the C. It just doesn't. I don't feel it belongs there because it is a program. Yeah, that's my logic behind it. So yeah, and you might, yeah, that's probably better to do it that way. I probably make it more difficult for myself, but I don't know. To me, it just makes more sense, I guess, to have it in my program files. That way, I know already where it is. So to each their own. Probably. I won't emphasize that, but. So what I'm going to do, at least for now, I'm going to go ahead and change directory. I'm just going to point to that directory so I can get this set. So we're going to need to use this shortly. So I'll just point to that directory. I know it's a lot of typing, but once I get this typed in here, I won't need to do it again because I can just use... and I almost forgot, too, that... Okay, hold on a minute. Yeah. So we're gonna go to Sandbox and make 3DO. So I'm just pointing it to that directory. Wherever yours might happen to be, yours will be different. So now I'm in that directory. So now from this point, and I just remembered, I did not change that. I'll have to change that really quick in my settings. Yes, let me go ahead and do that really quick before I forget. Because when I use the F8, you can use the F8 to bring up what was last typed in the command prompt, and I have that. I have currently got a hotkey set up for something else. So I'm just going to turn that off really quick. So excuse me while I make an adjustment here. All right. Yeah, I'm just going to clear this one out. Ta-da. I'm just going to apply. There we go. That way I won't step on it. That's just for my purposes. Okay, so now that's set at least. Now all I'll have to do is just call the... Once I get the pass file, I'll be able to call up the make 3DO and then just go through that process. You despise command prompt? Well, that's the only way you can use this make 3DO, unfortunately. In order to use the make 3DO utility, this is the only way you can use it. So, as much as we hate to use the command prompt, yeah, it is a must, I guess, for making our 3DO model. So what I need to do at this point is I need to close this version of Max and open up that new 3DS that I created. So I'm going to reset this. Don't save it, at least for now. Okay. Oh snap! That reminds me. What was that? Are you even gonna bother to share, or are you just gonna be rude that way? All right, so I'm gonna get out of this version of Max, and I'm gonna open up my Max 5. And as I've always mentioned before, any version up to Max 7 for sure does work with the Pappy export plugin, which is used in order to generate the pass file needed to make the 3DO. So just take a second for the 3D Max. There we go. And I could probably do a lot of the adjustments. I might just go and try that actually. I can probably make the appropriate adjustments that I need to right in this version, so I don't have to keep going back and forth. Someone pent me a PM and SRD and I need to reply. Oh, okay. I don't even go to that site anymore, I'll be honest. Bunch of hooligans there. That's just my opinion. They don't. I'll keep my mouth shut. I don't have anything nice to say about that place. I'll just be perfectly honest. Okay, so I'm gonna import that 3DS. So I'm gonna need to point to that directory. I'm sorry to be so bitter, I guess, about that, but the treatment I've got over in SRD, Nope. Can't do it. As far as I'm concerned, if it was me, I'd just ignore it. But that's just me. That's just me. Okay, I need to point to Charlotte, 18, and then go to the chicane, and then this new one. I don't want to step on this one. This is my new 3DS, so I'm gonna completely merge and convert. All right, so now I can just maximize. Hello. Oh, I hate when you do this. There we go. So get this one maximized, and then I'll open up my material editor and apply that texture. Make sure it's the TGA. That's the bus stop. I don't want that one. I want the chicane. And it does have the image alpha, so that's good. Okay. Now, don't need to be worried about the fact that these lines are on here. The fact that the texture that's being applied is still the same name that I need it to be to conform, I guess, to the model itself. So the texture can always be readjusted. You know, as far as I can remove those lines and then we can revert it back to normal. So don't be concerned with the lines being on here. That's not a problem. That texture can be adjusted. But you do need to have the appropriate texture on there so that it's named what you want it to be, so that when you spit out the 3DO, that name of that texture is going to be applied appropriately to the 3D model. So that's applied, and I'm going to double check the name of the mesh. Yep, it did step on a little bit here, so I'll just adjust that a little bit. Okay, so that's good. The texture's applied. Now I'll go ahead and export my pass. So I'll export, and I'm going to navigate to that directory. Go to mesh, Charlotte 18, chicane, and I'm going to do this as a new. I don't want to step on the original pass. I can always rename those afterwards. So what I'll do is I'll just click on this once, just so I get that populated in there. And what I'll do is just apply just underscore new, so I know that's my new pass. Okay, and I'll just confirm that that's saved properly. Here's my new pass, and I'll copy this over to my Make 3DO, and then I'll have to rename it. Oops, just rename this to take the new off. So I'll still have my original, but as far as being able to make my new 3DO, I can go this way. That's what I want the 3DO to be named. Now, keeping in mind, and I know I've mentioned this several times before too, and this is just a summary, just to recap. If you're making a 3DO based on just the raw pass file with no script, whatever the name of your pass file is going to be the name of your 3DO. So if you script it to potentially rename your your outputted 3DO based on the output function within your script, that is going to determine what your 3DO gets spit out as. So just a little bit of clarification as far as how the naming of 3DOs are based on raw pass as opposed to scripting. So, okay. With all that being done, this is all we need right here. So we got our Make 3DO. We already got it pointed to that directory. So now all I need to do is I need to call up the Make 3DO utility itself. We're using a -p for pass file, not a script, which would be a -s. And just the name of the pass file itself, which is roval underscore chicane, in this case, .pas, and there's no other parameters. We don't have any reflection maps or anything like that, so that's all we need, and we just push enter. And what that does is that spits out the 3DO, same name as the pass file in this case. So now from here I can take this and cut that. I won't name names, but someone wants to look at making a Pappy pass script for Blender. Needs help with exported models. Okay. I've had my fair share, I guess, with Blender. I guess maybe I'm just too one-sided, I guess, with spoiled, if you will, I guess, with 3D Max. Blender is not very fun. I've tried to do some farm sim stuff, I guess, with Blender. It's too much of a learning curve, in my opinion. I guess and it probably has a lot to do with the fact that I'm so versed in. I mean, I'm not entirely versed, but I mean, I'm a lot more versed in 3ds Max as compared to Blender. But it's completely different as far as how things work. You know, as far as how you move around in the workspace and what have you. So, yeah. Alright, so what I want to do from this point, I'm going to go ahead and just cut this into our track edit folder, which is here. And I'm going to step on the original. I still have, fair point is I still have the original 3DO saved in another location. So I already have a backup of that. So if I need to revert and go back to that, if something goes wrong this way, I still have that. So I'm going to refresh this. But I'm also going to take this model, this new model, and put that in our games track folder so we can test it in there as well. Alright, so what I need to do, firstly, let's go ahead and do a new. I'm going to reopen the track just to make sure that that new model loads. Okay, so that's with our new 3DO applied, so we should be able to check it in here, so that loads. So this looks like already it's too low already off the bat, but we're going to check it in the sim. Okay, at this point what we find it necessary is to check it in the sim, because it may be clipping here but it may not in the sim. So I'm not going to go 100% what's going on in here. Okay, so the fact that the model does load in Sandbox, at least, that's a good sign. Alright, so what I'm going to do is copy now that Roval chicane. Just got to track it down here. Chicane, this is our new one here, and I'm going to paste this into our game track directory, which is here. And I'm going to overwrite that, yes, and then we're going to test that in the sim. Okay, and now I'm going to try and keep, just work out of this version of Max, just to kind of show the versatility. A lot of the changes that I'll be making is just going to be probably vertex changes, you know, as far as adjustments up or down. Nothing really that drastic. I don't need to do anything crazy, so I can probably do a lot of the adjustments I need to in this version of Max, just to save time, I guess, as far as going back and forth, but just to also to show, I guess, the versatility of being able to go back and forth between the two, because you'll probably need to get into the habit of that anyway, because there's a lot of adjustments you can make that you can't in older versions of Max that you can in the newer versions of Max. So alright, so if you give me just another moment, I'll bring the wheel over and we'll go back into the sim and we'll check our changes. Alrighty, folks. Yeah, I had a little bit of issue with the clip on the wheel there, so I had to fumble with that a little bit. Alright, so go right back into the sim here. And we'll check our changes out. Now, keeping in mind we had that little bit of clipping that we saw in Sandbox itself, so we'll see how that actually presents itself in the sim as opposed to Sandbox. If that ends up showing the same way there, then we know that needs to be adjusted back up. Those verts need to be adjusted back up. So let's go into it. We'll go right over that. We're going to go a little backwards on the track here a little bit again. change the view. Okay, so do we see the clipping? Yes, we do see the same clipping. So the fact that we see the clipping the same way here as we do in Sandbox, that tells me that it needs to come back up in that area. Well, okay, but let's see how we're doing in this other spots here. It almost looks like it's a little too high there. I see it kind of went up on a hill. Check that again here. It looks a little bit better, but it's not. So it definitely needs to come up on that edge there, that's for sure. We're seeing the same clipping as we do in Sandbox as we do in the Sim, so that needs to definitely come up. Okay, let me go check it down here. So down here, how are we doing? That actually doesn't look too bad here. Not bad at all. Okay, so let me turn this around. Turn it around here. We'll watch the replay, that way we can kind of point out that way. So let's go through here. So no more clipping. That's good. That might be a good sign. But the adjustments we made down here, we still got some work to do. Okay, so let me just come up here a little bit more. Let's check the replay. So the fact that this is where cameras would come in handy. Well, that's not bad at all. Oh, snap. Kind of buried the nose there a little bit. Let me back this up here. You can see where the nose gets buried. Right about there. Wow, quite a bit right there. So I might be up a little too high. I'm gonna have to bring that down a tick or so. Coming off the main geometry onto the object, not too bad. Just kind of slow motion this. Not too bad right up until right in the middle of that. Those two reference points. Probably needs to come down about a tick. Then it's kind of sorts itself out. Just kind of speed this back up. This area all through here is good. Clips a little bit right there, not too bad. See, I'm primarily looking at the nose, but also keeping an eye on the tires, how much they're clipping into it. For the most part, it's not really too bad, other than this area right here. That's actually not too terrible. So those adjustments aren't that bad. I am not 100% disappointed with that. Okay. So, alright, let's go back here a little bit. Yeah, all through here is good. Marvelous right there. So right about the middle of these two reference points is we need to bring it down about a tick. So right about in the middle of those two references, you can see it's kind of burying the nose as well as the tires a little bit. Everything else looks good, especially the transition onto. Alright, well, the other thing I want to. I wish I had a camera from that. I want to see how lifted, I guess it is, up on the edge here. I didn't notice any. I couldn't see any grass texture, coming into it. In fact, let me go back into that and see. We'll get done. Let's go back into this. I'm gonna go back around there. I want to see if there's any green showing up on that edge, coming onto that initial object. So let's go check that out. As long as there isn't any of that there, we don't need to adjust that edge anymore. That's what I want to look and see. That's obviously too low there. That's going to need to be adjusted. So let's see how we are. Yeah, there's a little bit of lift there. Crap, I was hoping not. I don't know how else to correct that. So the fact when you first initially come onto this, let me put it on this view. You can see the grass peeking through. That tells me that that's lifted. I am not 100% sure how to correct that, to be honest. Looks like it's pretty uniform all the way down, too. The fact that I can see all that grass underneath there tends to get a little bit better on this end. Huh. But the fact that there's no clipping of the tires, I just want to check this again. That's the other thing I pay attention to. Alright, let's check this out here. See, what's really weird to me, okay, it's fine on this end. It's only more so, yeah, it's fine on this end. They don't see any grass. Texture peeking through that. It's right closer to this first reference point. You can see that grass starting to peek through there. But I don't know if that's an issue with the model or the track geometry. Yeah, because I think we see the same thing over on the other end too. See, it's good on that end. Let's check it over here. Yeah, that's obviously too low. Yeah, but see, even here, it's lifted right there. As you can see where it's lifted. Right here. Huh. But if I lower it, then it's clipping the grass through the object, so I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, I think the way that the track geometry, you know, the geometry of the track is getting rendered in the sim. I don't know. And what's kind of puzzling me, you know, we found this to be more of an issue, I guess, with walls than with objects like this. But yeah, the fact that I'm using a direct copy, if you will, I guess, of the track geometry based on a DAE. So I've exported the DAE based on the track geometry in the PTF, and why I'm getting that, I'm not sure. Because the fact that I'm having to adjust this so much is kind of crazy. As, you know, as far as how it's showing like this, because we're actually getting a 1-to-1 almost of how much is lifted here. You know, and that's based on all the translate that exists in the model. You know, coming from the DAE, it should be not like that. So I'm not really. It's pretty good, I guess, towards this edge. Same goes there a little bit, but I don't know why it's so off. That's weird. Don't get it. But anyway, we do necessarily need to make an adjustment for, there's a high spot in between here, so we'll probably fix that at least. I'm not really sure how to fix that problem. Again, you know, the fact that this model that we're trying to create is based on the geometry of the track, based on DAE, that should conform a lot better. That's part of the reason as far as using a DAE export of the track geometry. So why it's doing that, I don't know. That puzzles me. So we need to raise this area up. This area here looks fine, so I'm not going to adjust that any further. I do need to bring this up a tick, and that other area over here down a tick, at least. So let's do that, and I'm going to do that right through this version of Max. Yep, we'll just work out of this version of Max. Alright, let me get the wheel out of the way for a second. Give me a minute. Okay. So let me get Zach set up here. Alright, so where do we need to adjust? I'm going to go into vertex like this. So right around in here, it's crowned, if you will, as far as kind of raise it up too high. Right about the middle of this here. So I'm going to bring this, select this here. I don't know, I'm going to leave the edges alone and just bring this down a tick. Holy crap. Why did that go so far? Gotta back that up. Holy mackerel, why is that going down so far? Oh, I know why. I think I know why. That's in my preferences there. I gotta change how much it goes down. I just gotta remember where that's at though. Son of a gun, I don't even remember where that's at. There's a setting in there as far as how many units it goes down per press of the trying to remember where that's at. Is that in Gizmos? I'll find it a second here. Yeah, it's got a rotation increment in there, but that's not what I want. I want the increment for... Oh, right. Man, I'm having a brain fart right now. See, I know it more in the newer version of Max. This version of Max is probably a little bit different. But there usually is a setting for how many units, for when you use the arrows on here, how many units it goes down per click. Trying to remember what the heck that's under there, though. Okay. Yeah, that's not that. I want to say it was in Gizmos, but I don't see it. Son of a gun. Alright, what I'm going to have to do, since I can't find it, I'm not going to waste time, I guess, with... I don't know where it is in this version of Max, so... I'm trying to just... So what I'm going to do is just take note of what this is set at in here, and then I'll just adjust it manually down. So it's at a minus 0.053, so I just want to go down... Take the 3 off it. Is that enough? It's probably not enough. Let's do 0.48. Ugh, I don't see it moving at all. Let me see here. That point does not look like it's moving at all. Hold on a second. Okay, that's back to normal. Let me zoom in on that. Holy crap. There's a way to adjust that too, as far as how much zoom it'll actually apply. I want to not grab it like this, to be honest, but I might have to. Okay, why is that not adjusting? Hold on. Why don't I see the Z adjusting? Hold on. Oh, there it goes. Why does it keep going back to normal though? It's still staying on 0.53. That's not what it should do. That's confusing me. Put that back to normal. See, I might... This is where... this is why I usually will just go ahead and revert to using the newer version of Max. Because it has a lot more... the term I'm looking for eludes me. It's a lot more robust. Let's put it that way. Gives you a lot more flexibility in how you make adjustments, but the fact that I do need to adjust this point, but it's not giving me the adjustment that I want for some reason. I don't know why. I don't want to... Yeah, the fact to grab it by this point, you don't want to do that. That's because that's going to make it too extreme. I mean, you can do that, but you're going to be going back and forth for days as far as to be like it's going to be too low or too high. So the fact that I want to be able to just tick it down, but even if I do that, it's going way too much. So I either need to adjust it manually or figure out how to adjust what the increment is, I guess, for every click of the arrow. God, this is gonna bug me now. And this is primarily the reason why I usually switch from the newer version of Max to this one. I only use this one to export the pass file. So I think just for the sake of it, I'm gonna go ahead and just go to the newer version of Max, because I know I can adjust that more finitely. Otherwise, I'm gonna be here for... Yeah, because I can't stress it enough as far as like if you want to grab this handle for the Z and adjust it this way, I wouldn't suggest that, because you're not going to get as, you know, you're not going to be able to adjust it as finely doing it that way, because that's what I got into the habit of doing before. So I've gotten into the habit of either adjusting it manually or just using the arrow keys, you know, as far as for that that particular transform or translate that you want to adjust. So for the sake of this, I'm going to go ahead and just reset this, do a no, and I'm going to load up the other version of Max and load that 3DS in there and make those adjustments appropriately. So, give it a second here to load here. We'll get this right, as opposed to doing it I can just tell you by experience that if you were to grab that handle for the Z and just adjust it manually like I was showing there, you're going to be doing that for days, as far as, because you're going to be end up getting too low, too high. I can guarantee that. Don't necessarily want to take that approach. Alright, so let's import that 3DS. Let's go this way, mesh files, Charlotte 18, chicane, and we want the new one. Okay, now just go into the material editor, apply that texture. Now this is the difference between having a scene file as opposed to just loading the 3DS. When you reload the 3DS, obviously you don't have the material applied to it. You have to do that all manually again. That's the only downside, I guess, as far as importing into 3DS as opposed to having a scene file. But like I said, my approach to this is once I've got the model to where I want it, to where it needs to be, then I'll save a scene file so I have something to refer to, you know, for future reference. That's my approach. You could necessarily go ahead and save a scene file so that it'll have all that loaded in here as far as the texture and what have you. That's your choice. That's not totally wrong to do that. Okay, so let's do... I may be necessarily taking a longer approach to it, but my kind of philosophy behind it is once everything is where it needs to be, that's when I'll save a scene file, you know, as far as moving forward. And I guess I think in terms of like if I wanted to create that as an asset, you know, for use in like another track build, then I can just open the scene file and get all that what I need for future build. Again, that's just my philosophy behind it. So let's navigate to that folder, chicane, and we want to load the TGA. It still has our reference marks on there, which is fine. The name of the texture is still going to apply. Okay. So now I'll make the adjustments here. So it's going to be the same area as it was in the other version of Max. I need to adjust it right here. No difference there. It's just how I adjust it's going to be the difference. Alright, so yep, I got the same values here, so I should be able to just tick this down once. See, it's not as drastic because I was able to set the units as far as how far down it goes with each click. So I'll set that there, and then over here I need to bring these up a tick. So as far as from this edge about to here, I need to bring those up, and that's based on going back to here because that was a 1-to-1 representation here. We're seeing the same clipping in the sim as we were here. That's based on here. This is what we're trying to get raised back up. So I'm just moving that up a tick. I think I went down initially 2, so I'm bringing it back up 1. Very finite adjustments. Okay. The other thing that does bug me though, as far as how high it is up here, that tells me that there's probably a little bit of an issue with the elevation that exists in the actual track geometry. So that may or may not have to be adjusted down the road. Alright, we'll have to take a look at that. So let's want this, grab those, this, and these right here. I'm going to bring that all up a tick. 1 tick. It doesn't seem like much, but You can really see that difference here, though. That's what bugs me. It was fine all through here. We already saw that. Okay. So now I'm going to save this as a new 3DS. Oh, and I noticed, see what it did here? That's fine. I'll adjust that as we move along. But when I make the pass file, I'll have to make that adjustment there. Torch giving himself another shot. And he was successful. Good job, Torch. Don't get high on that stuff. It's potent. It's potent material. Want to mention to everybody too, with that being done there, the shot still does exist. Oh, you got 2 in a row. Nice. I did change the. If you want to check how much, quote unquote, points that you have there, I've changed it from adrenaline to fluids. So if you want to check your fluids. I just felt adrenaline was a little too long. So, yeah, I just kind of adjusted that a little bit. Everybody needs fluids, I guess, to survive. Fluids are important. You need to have fluids. Keeps you healthy. It's just a little bit easier, I guess, to type that than trying to remember adrenaline. So this is the fair mention. I don't want to forget to mention that. Razor James checking his out too. He's got some time in there. Got some catching up to do to me though. Alright, so we made our adjustments as we did here. The one thing I'm taking note of is the name of our mesh. We'll adjust that, you know, once we make our scene file as well as our pass file. But the fact that it's not named what I want it to be, that's Torch is. Why are you exclaiming, I guess, to his how much time he's got in here? There are rookie numbers. You gotta pump it up. Yep. You're gonna get to work there. Oh yeah, and the bot's letting you know as far as like I added some more links in there as far as for some clips, you know, that are based off the stream. I've also included in there as far as what's going on in the SBP channel. As far as the Safer Barrier Project channel, there's a lot of good how-tos for Inner 2003 in there as well. So I've adjusted that. Yeah, so the bot is got that adjusted there too. Feel free to check those out at your leisure. As far as all those playlists for that, gives you a little bit of little excerpts from the streams and such, whatever, to let you know as far as put you in the right direction as far as what if there's something specific that you need, as far as like I just need to know how to do this. Chances are it's probably in there, and if there isn't something in there that you would like to see, feel free to let me know. Either apply it to the Spline Design's Facebook group page if you're on that, in the Discord, or even go to my official, what I'm considering to be my new official Facebook page. And I believe I've made a, if you go to the Spline Design's Facebook group page, I've made posts in there, I guess, and that you can request do a friend request, I guess, to that page, and I'll more than glad get you liked on there, because I'm gonna use that a new Facebook page, I guess, is primarily for dealing the streaming stuff as opposed to a personal Facebook, just to kind of keep it all, I want to say secluded, but kind of keep it segregated. That's probably a better word from all the personal stuff. Okay, so again, we made the changes, make the adjustments to this model, so I'm going to go ahead and save a new 3D, export a new 3DS. I don't want to say save. Big difference between doing a save and a export. Big difference. Yeah, because the fact that we do want it in a 3DS, that's going to be export, not save. Alright, so we do this way. Mesh model, Charlotte, 18. Go to chicane, and then I'm going to make sure. Now, by default, with this version of Max that I'm using here, and I think in pretty much all the newer versions of Maxer, it's never going to default to 3DS. It's usually going to be in FBX, so be wary of that. make sure you select the 3ds format as far as for moving on to being able to export that, so that you can import that into your older version of Max and get that pass export. So ooh, pizza, that sounds good. I haven't even thought about what I'm gonna have for dinner yet. I haven't eaten since breakfast, so yeah, that sounds good. So what I'm gonna do is, I'm just gonna save over this new one here. I'm still not stepping on the original 3ds. This still has the original format, we didn't, as far as with no changes to it. So I'm just gonna keep applying the change. I could even create a new B, so that I don't step on this one, so I can always revert back to if I so choose. I'm just gonna use this one. I'm just gonna roll the dice and go with this one here. And don't worry about this, because it's just telling you that it's renaming the texture. Don't be concerned with that. Mentioned that before plenty of times. Okay, so what I'm gonna do from this point, just go ahead and reset this. Not gonna save that. Not yet. And then I'm gonna open up the older version of Max. Let me go ahead and minimize this for now. Open this version of Max up. And like I said, pretty much the only reason you need this older version of Max is to get that get the use of the pass export. It's about the only reason. Okay, so we got that loaded. It loads pretty quickly, so that's cool. Not entirely too bad. Alright, so let's do an import. Again, 3ds format. You can't do an open on a 3ds. You have to do an import. Okay, so going to that directory once again, and just pointing to it. There's this one here. Okay, here we go. So I'm just going to maximize that view, open up the material editor, and you can already tell too, like, one of the main differences that you'll notice as I go in between these two different formats of 3ds Max. When you open the material editor, this is very simplified material editor as compared to Max 14 that I've been using. A lot more going on, and it's a lot more robust, as I said, as far as in the material editor as it is in this one. It's still relatively the same type of format. You get the spheres and all that stuff, but you got a lot more options in the newer versions of Max. So that's one of the main differences you'll see. Alright, so we're going to load that TGA, make sure that has the alpha. That is important as far as making our model into a 3DO. Image alpha there, and I'm going to apply that like so. So it puts it, make sure it's on the model. I've said this before, and there's a clip of it actually. Make sure your texture is physically applied to the model. If it's not physically applied, you only have it in the sphere and don't have it physically or visually showing on the object prior to pass export, you're going to get a generic get applied to it. And again, I've mentioned that several times over, and there's a clip of it as far as the importance of a pass export, as far as what needs to happen. So that is probably the one key thing, is to have your texture physically and visually applied, as well as ensure that the name of your mesh, I go over here, I like to just, it's not important, but just to kind of keep it clean and have it named. I always like to make the mesh name the same as the model, the 3DO that I eventually generate. That's my approach to it. You don't have to necessarily do that, but that's my approach. That's my OCD, I guess, if you will. So I'm just going to adjust the name of the model mesh, I guess, there, prior to pass export. So with all that being done, the texture's applied. I've ensured that my model mesh name is what I want, and now I can export the pass. So I'm going to point to that directory again. So let's go here, chicane, and I want to do pass file. So I'm going to do pass. And this is, once you got that pass export, that plugin applied, you'll get this option. If you don't get this option, then your plugin's it's not loaded properly. So you have to make sure that's done prior to this step, obviously. So I'm going to still keep stepping on this new one. I'm going to keep the original pass. Yes, I want to overwrite that. Okay, so if I go to that directory, that should be right here. This is the one I want, so I'm going to copy this one over to our Make3DO directory. Like so. This one here I'm going to go ahead and throw out. We've already checked that one. And all I need to do is just rename this to take off the new. That's what's segregating it from the original. So that's what my 3DO is going to be named. Again, just to summarize. So now I can go back into this. Now, this is where I can save a little bit of typing. Because I've already typed this in here, as far as the command prompt goes, all I have to do is do an F8. Oh nuts! Did the sound just go out? I'm glad you chimed that in there, Torch. Let me see if that. I think I might have known what did that too. Just a second here. Yeah, I think I know what did that. When I did the F8, I think that's what did it. Yep, sure did. Thank you for letting me know that, Torch. So I still have. Okay, I still do have a. Yeah, when I did the F8 in the command prompt there, that's when it muted it. Sorry about that. Thank you for mentioning that, Torch. Appreciate that. Yeah, let me adjust that here really quick. Yeah, the fact that I still got a hotkey in here, I didn't think I did, but maybe I do. Yep, so when I did the F8, I thought I got them all out of there, but let me just check that really quick here. It'll take me just a second. Glad you spoke up. I'd have been, where the heck is it go? Alright, here's, yep, sure do. I got an F8 there. Okay, I think what I'll do is I'll just remember when I do that F8 that it does do that, and I'll just have to, yep, okay. That's the way I can do that. I'm making myself a note right now, so anytime I do the F8, I'll have to check that. Yeah, because otherwise if I take it out there's another cue in there that I have that will step on, so I don't want to do that. Okay, one other thing that I didn't have up here that I noticed, and I've been trying to tweak on that a little bit, but it hasn't been going very well. So I've got this little deal that does, but the other thing that needs to happen, and I think that's why I had that still open. Let me check this out here. That's this one right here. So I have to make sure. Right now it's on the show off. Let me check this. Holy mackerel. So many windows open. Alright, I need yeah, I need to do some more work on that. I'm not gonna mess with that right now. So the fact that my segment infos, yeah, over here. So this segment infos over here, it's supposed to populate that window and kind of blow that up a little bit. We haven't needed to use that as of yet, but that's something else I realized was not on there. I still got some work to do on that to get that to show up a little bit bigger so that those can see what I'm doing as far as what values I'm looking at. It's easy for me to see, but necessarily doesn't come across very well for those out in watching the stream there. So Okay, I reloaded the track with our new model, with our new 3DO. So now we can look at the changes that are applied that way. We shouldn't see any more clipping here. Still a little bit. Not entirely that bad though. So he's probably got still a little bit more adjustment to make here. This is probably going to be a 1-to-1. We'll see the same thing in the sim more than likely. So we still got on the very edge there, still a little clipping. What's still bugging me, and I don't know, again, I don't know how I can fix that, but the fact that there's still some, it's like raised here. You can see the grass texture underneath that, since this is kind of an overlay of the grass. Wish I knew how to fix that. And it may be as simple as, I don't know, unsnapping or resnapping the X section. I don't know. I haven't really had that happen before. Usually it conforms entirely to, you know, the fact you can see that grass peeking through there. It's that we're able to see that in the sim itself too. So okay, so yeah, I'm just so yeah, we do got a little bit of clipping here. I'm debating whether or not I should just go ahead and adjust this first before testing in the sim, or should I go ahead and load it in the sim and do this. I think I'm just gonna go ahead and adjust this. Yeah, get that out of the way. We'll get it to where this is not clipping, and then we're not gonna touch this area, so we still need to test that in the sim. But I want to fix this edge. Yeah, I think that's what I'm gonna do. So I can keep this open here really quick. The only problem is I'm gonna have to go back to the other version of Max, because the way it's adjusting the verts in here, I don't like it. So I'll go ahead and reset this all, reload the other version of Max. But if anything, it kind of shows you the versatility of how you can go back and forth between the two versions of Max. If anything, there is that. But the fact these two different versions haven't been taking that long to load, it's kind of nice, I guess, in a way. Like the ambulance? What do you mean by the ambulance as far as it loading? Okay, so yeah, we got this version of Max back open, so we'll go ahead and import our 3DS Max, our 3DS model. Yep. So go navigate. This is the only bad thing as far as going back and forth between the two versions too, is I have to repoint. And the fact that I'm going all this length the way I am, you might necessarily find to just work with your models and until you're done, and put them away nicely. I guess once they're done, just put them on your desktop. It might work better for you. And I could have done that myself too, but it's kind of showing the differences as far as the way you can do things. I like to keep everything where it needs to be, so that it's always there, because my desktop gets cluttered with stuff, and it's just like I try to keep that cleaned off. In fact, even as I speak, you can't see a lot of that, but it's pretty messy. I'll just say that. So bring up the material editor, pick a sphere, and set it on the standard. Okay, and then we will diffuse a bitmap. And even though it's a TGA, you still want to choose a bitmap, just in case you might question that. Okay, go to 3D Mesh. I'm just navigating back to that folder where we have the chicane model and our texture right there. Making sure that it is an image alpha, which it is. So we're going to apply that to the model. There's two things you got to click. The end result. In this case, for this version of Max, you want to show shaded material in viewport, as well as apply assign materials to selection. So, once you got your model, that's an extra added deal for this version of Max. In Max 5, you don't need to do that. You just show end result and assign materials to textures, just those two things as opposed to the three things. So that's another difference between the two versions of Max. Okay, so now we got this applied. I'm going to adjust that edge here, so I can refer to sandbox here, and I want the camera view, not that. go to the camera view. Yeah, so I want to adjust this that very edge only. So like these verts that are here. So it's going to be towards this edge here. So probably just, let me check this here. Between this set and this set right here. So looking back at the camera view. Yeah, it'd be roughly between those two sets of verts. So we're on the very edge and just the next set in. You can't really see that, but you can kind of picture that as far as like what you see here visually, as far as what needs to be adjusted. I wouldn't go so far as this. I'd leave this alone, so I'd probably make that too high. So I'm just going to do these two sets here and just move those translate up just a tick. And then we'll test it. Okay? Just a tick. Alright, so I'm not going to adjust this. We still need to test that in there in the sim. Alright, the name of the mesh is not right, but that's fine for now. Just for now. So I'm going to export this back out. Navigate to a folder. And like I said, you might find it necessary to just go ahead and put this all to your desktop. It's on FBX. Make sure it's on 3DS. Just going to step on that one. Yes. It's going to bark at me. That's going to change, rename the texture. I'm not worried about that. Reset this. Close this one out. And reopen Max 5. Looks like you can move the vert out to get rid of those. Now, I don't need to, not out, just up. Yeah, it's just upwards. It's just the height. And I think, like I said, a lot of it has to do with the height data. You know, as far as the LiDAR, the way they track geometry as far as the height values. They may look like it needs to go out, but that's mostly height as opposed to anything. I don't want to stretch it out past, I guess, where the geometric line is. That way, as far as on the X or Y. I think that's what you're suggesting. Alright, so import that 3DS. We're going to navigate back to that. Mesh. Charlotte 18 chicane. So the fact that I've got this in its own folder does save a little bit of time for me. So open this up. Completely merge. Okay. Now we're just maximizing this. Open the material editor. Just press the M, or you can go up in the menu here. I'll just do render to material editor that way. But it's, as you can see here, it's the same in the newer version of Max. You can just bring it up with the press of the M key. Pretty straightforward. Okay, so bitmap, texture, image alpha. That's important. And this is what I was talking about before, as far as like you only need to do show map and viewport as well as apply. There's only the two things as opposed to three things. That's the difference between the two versions of Max. It's the two things as opposed to three things. Image alpha is on there, so it's actually physically and visually applied. So that's good. I'm going to adjust the name of my model mesh, because it did step on the name because of the 3DS format. Okay, so that's good to go. I was getting into that habit. Alright, so now I can export that out as a new pass. A lot of this is redundancy, but the fact that I'm having to adjust as much as I have for this object, it's kind of crazy. You may not necessarily find it, you know, to have to do all this adjusting, because be it the fact that it is representative of the actual geometry, you know, based on DAE export of the track geometry. Most of the time, if anything, it's just completely just have to lift it slightly. But this has not been the case with this model for some reason. Don't know why, but it's being stubborn. Alright, so we're saving this, exporting this out to this. Oh wait, I did that wrong, so do no. I forgot to change this to pass. That's what I want. Pass file. And I think it might have... Oh, okay. I gotta navigate to the folder. Yep. Charlotte. 18. Chicane. It's on pass file, and I want to save over this one. Yes. Alright, so now we're going to copy that over to our Make3DO directory. I'm just going to refresh this here. So do copy. Make3DO. Paste that in here. We're going to dump this one. We don't need this one. We've already checked that one. Rename this one to just take off the underscore new. Like so. And again, we'll go through this. F8. And I'm taking note to the fact that it does mute the sound. Bear with me just a second. Yeah, see, I knew it was going to do that too. Alright, so I need to escape out of that. Shoot. Ah, crap. Now I forget how to get out of this one. Son of a gun, anyway. Alright, hold on. I forgot that F4 is that option. I forget how to get out of that one. Ah, son of a gun. Alright, so if there's another F4. Son of a biscuit. I forget how to get out of that one. Nope, that's not what I wanted. That changes my scene. Okay. Oh, for crying out loud. Bear with me, folks. I gotta remember how to get out of this one. Let's see, and... Dag nubbit. I can't remember how to get out of that one. Shoot. Now I'm having a brain fart again. Yeah, I forgot the F4 is actually just one of my other... Alright, hold on. I don't want to do that, son of a gun. Okay, I can just do enter. Okay, that's fine. So, let me try this again. Do the F8. Oh, for fuck's sake. Okay. Sorry about that, folks. I think we're back. Yeah, I had to make sure. So what happens is, that's probably fair mention too, like, you have a lot of the F keys that you can use within the command prompt. And the fact that I brought up one of the F keys that I use for my scene change, as far as bringing the audio back and whatever, brings up that little dialogue there. All I had to do was just push enter in that case, and it just deleted, I guess, what I had populated, I guess, to push enter on, you know, to actually execute. So I just had to redo the F8 and then just bring it back. So a little bit more simpler than I thought it was. I was just trying to remember how to get past that. So yeah, you have to be wary, I guess, as far as there's lots of F key functions that you can do within the command prompt. As long as you've got this focused, you know, as far as that in there, be it F8, F4, whatever. There's a lot of different features in there like that. So if you find yourself getting into that, for that particular case there, I did a F4, and it brought up that dialogue. I can just kind of show this again. It'll bring that up there. All I had to do is press enter. There wasn't anything to delete, but as long as you're not focused on this, you can do a lot of your F keys then. So that's what I had to do. Okay, so problem is, hold on. Did it not? I did not produce my 3DO. So let me do this again. Oh, I see what it did. So all it did was just what I had in there was just the. So shoot, I might have to retype that now. Let me see. Let me bring up the F8. So it might mute. Just bear with. There we go. Now we're good. Yeah, that's a little bit of a... that's just for me. As far as for the way I've got my setup here, you wouldn't necessarily have to deal with that. That has to do with a lot of my hotkeys that I have for my my streaming stuff. So don't be too concerned with that. So, but if you do happen to see these odd commands, I guess, come up on there, it's not usually that difficult to get out of them. Okay, so we need to cut this out. We're going to put this into our track edit folder and overwrite the one that we have in there. So we're going to refresh that and then also reload the track in Sandbox. Do a new. Again, still not making any changes to the PTF overall. It's just that one object that's already attached to the PTF. So we're still using the same PTF. Just reloading that object. So it's still clipping there. It's almost like I didn't make any change at all. But see how it's lifting here though now. It wasn't lifting as bad right there before. So this is getting a little bit irritating actually, because I feel like I'm chasing my tail as far as why this won't adjust properly. To have to be making this much adjustments in this model because it's based on the actual geometry of the track is kind of mind-boggling to me, because I hadn't had this much of an issue, I guess, with this bus stop. Not nearly as much of an issue as I am with this one. That's why it's kind of perplexing me a little bit. Usually don't have this much of a problem. Now, what I am noticing too, this isn't clipping as much as it was before. But I am going to make another adjustment to this. This is obviously not good. We know this is probably more than likely going to present itself the same way in the sim. So. Alright. So, yeah, we got to go back to... Yeah, make another adjustment. So I'm going to go ahead and reset this. No. And yes. Go back into max 14. Keep that up for now. Didn't go up enough, so we're gonna adjust it again. And you'll find yourself doing this. I mean, I can't say it enough. The fact that I'm having to adjust this as much as I have for this one object is kind of crazy. It normally doesn't work out this way. Not sure why it's being so stubborn. It is giving me a lot of practice in showing how versatile you can go back between the two different versions of Max, at least anyway. Alright, so let's, yep, we're going to import back in here. That's the only crazy thing that I have to keep repointing back to that directory, but it's kind of second nature to me now at this point. Kind of just know where it's at, so I'll bring up the material editor, pick a sphere. Go to standard. Yeah, see, the fact that I don't even have to switch it to standard, I guess, in Max 5, that's another thing. A lot more robust in this version. Okay, so point to the texture. Okay. And then that TGA, image alpha. Apply it there, apply it there. So that's all good. Now, zoom back in onto this area. It still needs to come up here. So we're going to go into vertex. So still right here. And right here. So making sure those two sets of verts are selected. I'm just going to move them up another tick. I already went down a tick, so that shouldn't be... That's got to be pretty close. I know it doesn't seem like it's that big of an adjustment, but it should be. Alright, so go ahead and export this out as another 3DS. Whoops, wrong folder. 3DS, okay. Charlotte, 18, chicane. Make sure I put it to 3DS. And go right over that. And ready, we'll reset. Nope. Yep. And get out of it. Good. Go into Max 5. We'll get there eventually. So the fact that, and keeping in mind, I have not made any other adjustments other than to that one edge of the object, not the entrance of that. As far as that little crown, that bit of a crown that there was in between those two other reference points. Okay, so we're going to import this into here. I'm hoping this will be the last adjustment I'll have to make. Hope so. Okay, Charlotte, 18. Chicane. That one there. I'll completely replace. Alright, material editor. See, there's a lot less. It's already on standard. In this version of Max, I don't have to switch that like in the other version. Just go to diffuse. Once it's select the sphere. Select on that texture. Assign it to it. That's the most critical right there. And then I'm also going to check the name of the mesh. Like so. Okay. So that's all good. I'm going to export that out as a pass file. But I need to get to that directory. Chicane. There we go. Yes, sir. Okay, now I'm going to copy that over. Copy this back over to our Make 3DO. We're going to delete this one. Rename this. Like so. And then we're going to Make 3DO. So I'll get muted here probably for a second, just for a brief moment. There we go, we should be back. Now, so that spit out our new 3DO. Gonna cut that out and put that into our track edit folder. Yes, I want to replace that, refresh it. And then we're gonna reload the track. Do a new. Reload it. Okay. And we'll check it out in the camera. So hopefully this should be the last edit. I think we're pretty good now. It's got a little bit of a clip right there, but I'm going to deal with it. It does show that the adjustments that we're making there obviously are... See, there's... You can definitely see right where this white spot... But I'm going to leave it just like that for now. Right where this white spot is in the texture, it's a little bit high. We got a little bit of a clip right there, but we're going to test this in the sim, just like it is, and just see where we're at. So I want to at least check this one here too, but that's a little bit better. But you can see our adjustments are actually visually applying now. But again, the fact that I've had to adjust this this model as much as I have is kind of crazy. It usually is just a one-to-one. You know, once, if anything, you have to just lift it up a little bit, I guess, to remove, you know, the more uniform. I think what it really comes down to is because we're dealing with more of the LiDAR data. You know, in the humps and bumps that do exist in the track, that's what we're having to deal with here. But still, even with that, the fact that usually when you do a DAE export of the actual track PTF through 3D SimEd, it's usually a one-to-one representation of that area. So the fact that still having to make this many adjustments is a bit crazy. I mean, I sound like a broken record, but it is kind of crazy. It usually won't end up being this way. So now what I'm going to do is take that 3DO for the chicane, and I'm going to copy that into our game track directory. That's my projects folder, okay. Yep, game track directory. Once we're all done, I'm going to have that track projects folder. So we're going to replace that. So all of our changes that we've made, what we see in sandboxes, should be what we see in the sim itself. So got that in there. I'm going to keep that open. Let's minimize some of this stuff. Alright, so let me get the wheel back over here and we'll load that back up there. So give me just a second. I'll be right back. Alright, there we go. So we got that set. Now we'll just go ahead and load up our profiler. Eyes up, and we'll launch the sim. And we'll go check our changes out. Go into testing mode. Load the track. Alright. Change our view here. Peel out of the pit style there. Make our way over here. Yeah, so we should see that little bit of a clip, which we do. Not quite as much though. Wow, that is so much more raised there, it seems, there on that edge. That's crazy. I don't know. That's... Like I said, typically you won't have to deal with that. It shouldn't happen, but the fact that it is on this particular model, I'm not sure. So, we're gonna go over here and check this area out. That's really perplexing me right now, I guess, as far as... I don't know why it's... As far as that edge is being such a pain. As far as why it's revealing so much of the what's underside of it. Alright, so let's just go through here. We'll check this out in the replay. As far as all that looks. We'll go through all that. Okay, so now we'll check this out in the replay. See what we got. Maximize this up here. It's still a little bit high. Yep, you can see it's still clipping into the nose. Not quite as bad, but it's still a little high. Still got some adjustment to make there then. It's really good through that straight of that part though. This through here, clips a little bit. I mean, you can really see some of the bumpiness. Look at how high that is though. Right there, that's nuts. But see, as I've come to find though, if I move it down in that spot, then it ends up clipping again. So I'm not really sure how much. I guess what's really not known as far as how much I actually need to adjust it, because I've gone both ways already up to this point, even prior to starting the stream here. It just seems that there's no perfect number, I guess, to set that area at, as far as so it doesn't clip or is too high. So I'm not really sure how else to adjust that. Here, let me go take this back here. Let me fast forward it a little bit. So I'm gonna check it all through this way. Yeah, so that's definitely high right there. Definitely clearly high. You can see all the grass texture through it. So I make my way through it this way. So it's still a little high between these two reference points here. Let's see as I go through here like that. Yeah, so it's still right about there. Yep. See, it's clipping pretty good through the nose. And in fact, I can't really see it from the side how much the tires are, but definitely you can see it through the nose. It's clipping pretty good. See if I kind of back this up here. You can see where the nose is showing right there. And as you see right in through here, it's still a little high, so it still needs to come down. So that still needs to be adjusted. It's not clipping though, so that's a good thing. I mean, as far as being able to do some LPs at this point, it's probably not as bad, because you don't have all that clipping of, you can't see the track geometry peeling through it. So a lot of this is just going to be like cosmetic adjustments at this point. So I think I'll save a lot of that for I'll work on some of that stuff off stream. I think being able to do some LPs now it's going to be a little bit easier now, just to remove that distraction of that clipping so bad as it was. So I think what I'm going to do a little bit of cleanup here. Just a little bit of cleanup. I'm going to keep that texture, I think, with those reference points on there, because those might actually help me as far as doing, as far as breakpoints. I can use them as breakpoints, possibly, as far as laying down the LPs. I'm going to leave it that way. I've got the layered template, I guess, for this, so I can always... So I'm just going to close this for now. And I'm not going to save though. Maybe I will. What the heck. I'm going to save this with those reference points on there, just in case I needed to use those again. Those were kind of useful. So I'm going to save this as a new PSD. Layered template. Alright. So I'm going to do that, and I'm going to close it. I'm just going to clean up here a little bit. Alright. That I still want to get to. I want to adjust that texture a little bit to reflect this a little bit better. That's a little bit off. I think I got these lines. In fact, I still got this open here. Kind of show that a little bit again. I think in the bus stop, the way I've got the texture, and I think I got those gaps in between the different colors a little too wide. And they're definitely off too. See, I think they're just a tad bit wide. And plus it's off here because it needs this part here. Dang ads. Hold on a second. Skip that. There we go. Alright, so yeah, the fact that this painted line should be kind of going through this like that on this very top edge of this lower one here. So that textures are obviously a little bit off. So that's more or less of a texture adjustment, not so much a model adjustment. Okay, so we haven't made any PTF adjustments. I'm gonna go ahead and just refresh this. We had this open for quite a while, so I'm gonna close that and also close this out. We still got that new 3DS that I can always open up. So I'm gonna reset this, close it out, and I think what I'm gonna do, just to remove some of the monotony that's been going on with the adjustments in making to that one object, we're gonna go ahead and try and do some lay down some new race LPs. I think that's what I want to focus on. That was something I wanted to get into this stream to kind of show that off a little bit more, as far as how to set your wheel up appropriately as well. We do have a tutorial, and that's part of the reason why I brought it up with the how-tos that exist over at the SPP, the Saver Barrier Project YouTube channel, as far as that video channel. If you put in, I also made it a little bit easier to get to that tutorial by !reflap. That is the video you'll need within that exclamation point how for. That takes you to the how-tos that exist in the SPP video channel. But that's the direct video for the reflap utility, which I'm going to go over here in a moment. Just to kind of summarize, I guess, what's going on in that video tutorial. How to enable the reflap and so on. So yeah, as far as all the different functions that exist in there. So I want to get that into the stream for sure. So I need to find my little cheat sheet for... in fact, let me go ahead and do this too. I'm gonna... let me bring up another winder. Okay, I want to... hold on a second. Alright, this is what I want to do. So I'm going to bring this over here. So what I have... I'll pay attention to my thumbnails there. If you go to this Spline Design, and I kind of showed this last week as well, so I'm going to show it again. If you go to Spline Design Studio, SplineDesignStudios.com, once you get to the site here, they have there's this other information tab. So it'll initially take you to some initial mods that were created for the Enter 2003 by Project Wildfire. But what's also here is sandbox information. And in the sandbox information, I don't remember if I put, I think it's in here. Yes. So right here, if you click through this, there's another tab down here, another link that goes to other Inner 2003 edits. If you click on that, it gives you all the information for the reflap utility commands. So yeah, I wanted to make sure, throw that out here, and it'll kind of give you, there's a lot more information on here too, as far as like what different parameters for track INI and things of that nature. Also how to get the WinMip 2 utility. This will take you back to the sandbox info. So there's a lot of getting back and forth as far as being able to navigate back and forth to the different information. But this is all the information for the reflap utility itself within the simulation itself. This is all built in. You can feel free to check that out at your leisure, if you so choose, I guess, to understand how to access the reflap utility that is embedded within the simulation itself. So I'll just kind of keep that up and open there for as I do this. Alright, so I want to make sure, one of the things that we'll mention in that video is how to set up, if you've got a Logitech racing wheel and you have this profiler that I've been popping up here. If you have this profiler, it shows you how to set up a button for the stashing of your race LPs, because the fact that it uses two keys via the Alt-R, you want to be able to set that up as a macro on your wheel so that you can just push that button while you're driving, because it's pretty difficult to do the Alt-R as you're driving on the keyboard. So the fact that that tutorial will show you how to set that up as a macro on your wheel. Okay, that was a short ad. I've already got that loaded in here. I got this button on my race wheel. Then I got the G27, but it will work on G25 as well as pretty much any other Logitech wheel that uses the Logitech Gaming Profiler software. You can set that button up there, and that video already explains that, so I'm not going to go through all that. But the fact that I do have this already set up for the Alt-R on this button, so as I'm driving, I can just push that button. I can turn the stashing for the LP, the potential path or whatever, on or off with that button now. So I'm gonna go ahead and launch the sim again, and we're gonna work on some LP files. So let's go into testing, and you can only do this. And it's mentioned as well in the video. You can only do the reflap utility in testing mode. So keep that in mind. You cannot do it in a race, as far as a race weekend. Okay, so making sure I got a setup. So I got a setup in here. Cool. We've been using the same setup the whole time. It's probably not perfect, but it's been a pretty good baseline so far. So what we're gonna do is go in this view, and I like to, when I'm actually laying down the race LPs, I like to be in either cockpit or this view, to get that perspective, as opposed to doing it this way. You can feel free to do whichever mode you want, as far as the Jesus mode, the far chase, the closed chase, or the roof, or the cockpit. I like to use either the roof or the cockpit for doing those. So, but at least for now, I'm going to pan this out here. The way to initiate the reflap utility, and again, that's all included in that information on the SDS site as well as the video. But in order to initiate the reflap, you do Control, Alt, Shift, tilde. And what that'll do, how you know it's enabled, is you'll get some information. Let me turn my F2 off. Let's see if it'll let me. Oh crap, changed my scene. That's fine. Let's see, let's do this. Son of a gun. Okay, that will shut that off. Just trying to get that shut off there. So I'm trying to show, trying to turn off all the F screens. So yeah, what it'll do, if you notice where it was populating my my F screens, right up in that top left corner, you'll be able to see some dialogue. up there. That's how you'll know, and it's all in red. That's how you'll know that the reflap utility is on. Okay? And then what I forgot to get was my cheat sheet here, so give me a second. I need to get that cheat sheet to enable all the lines that we want to replace. Give me a minute. Yeah, the fact that I've got all these in a hard copy, as far as in a printed format, kind of saves me a little bit from going back and forth there, but I do use both. I found that useful, so hopefully it does serve useful for everyone else as well. So in order to turn on the working reflap, which is where most of your stashed lines will go, you need to turn that on by yeah, where is it? Okay, we got it turned on. Toggle, yeah, that is, so it's just control tilde. So I do left control tilde. See, what that does, you'll see these orange dots. Once you start stashing, what that'll do is you'll see yellow triangles once you do start stashing. But you'll need that on so that you can see the stash lines, because those work in tandem with each other. Also, what I want to turn on is the race LP that we have in here currently, which would be to toggle that on. That's yeah, where is it? Control 0. Sorry about that. Left control 0. So that's our initial race LP that we have applied here. This is what we have as of currently. This is our race LP. Now if I turn on the other ones, just to kind of show for reference, I can do control 1 and a control 2. So the inside line would be the max race. The middle line is the race LP, to include the race line LP, and then the min race, which is the far right. So I don't like to have these lines on when I'm doing my stashing, because I tend to follow those too much. If you want to keep them on there, that's up to you. That's your choice. But I just want to show, what we have here currently, what we need to redo as far as to get a better race LP. The pit LPs seem to be fine, and just realizing my mic keeps pegging out there, so I apologize if that's coming across too loud. But yeah, the pit LP should be fine. Let me bring up those. That should be, looking at my cheat sheet here again, to get the pit LPs up there, and that's the pit 0. That's what those would be. You do control 3, 4, and 3, 4, and 5. So I can do control 3, 4, and 5. That's all the pit LPs. Those will all be in red, some shade of red. So we have the pit LP, which is the main pit LP. That's what the pace car and whatever we'll use primarily, is in the middle. That's next to the orange cones that you see there. The inside line would be the max pit, and the outside line is the min pit. So much the same as the race LPs are done. You have max on the inside. You got your standard pit and or race in the middle, and then you have your min LP for your min pit or max race on the outside. That would be your extreme right hand side of your main. So hopefully that makes sense. So just to kind of show those a little bit, so I'm going to toggle all those off. You don't need those, and you can turn those on or off by control of those different keys. And I'm going to shut off the race LP and all that stuff as well. You can see those getting turned off, toggled off. Alright, so then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back this way. Now your starting point for your stashing does make a little bit of difference. So the fact that you start them like from your pit stall as opposed to on the actual racing surface does make a difference. Okay, so you don't necessarily want to stash starting from, bottom line is you want to start stashing as close to like the start finish line, something that's of easy reference. Okay, so that's what I'm gonna demonstrate now. So I'm gonna make at least a lap around this course, and I'm gonna change my view here. So I'm just gonna do a warm-up lap here. So as I come to the start finish line, that's when I'm gonna start stashing, and I'm gonna use my key that I've got assigned to my wheel to be able to do that. And you won't be able to see it so much probably on the stream as far as, but you will see it start stashing, and you'll see the numbers climb. The numbers will change on that top left-hand corner where the reflap interface is enabled. So I'm just going to make a loose lap around here until I get to the start-finish line, and I'm going to start going balls out and turn the stashing on. So I'm just getting a feel for the track. Alright. And I've got the game sounds kind of turned down a little bit. That's probably for good reason. Hopefully you can hear them. Oh, come on. I'm pushing a little bit. I watch my driving. Okay, so just kind of getting a feel for this here. See, better representation of that bus stop. For sure. With having that visual cue in there. Now we're going to come into the chicane. Slow it up here. Makes it a little bit easier to come through here. Oh yeah, much better. Alright, now I'm going to start stashing. And like I said, you may not be able to see that up at the top left there, but it is stashing. Now, I'm not going to probably use this first lap, but it's going to be my throwaway. More than likely. But you can do as many laps as you need to, and then turn your stashing off, and then transfer your stashed line into the working reflap, which is the orange cones. So this is definitely going to probably be my throwaway lap. So it's going to be all over the place as far as braking and whatnot. Trying not to follow that orange line, to be honest. This is definitely going to probably be a throwaway. Kind of drifting a little too far to the wall. This makes it so much easier to get through here, though. Oh, crap. I kind of dorked it, though. That's this driver inability right there. Clearly saw the visual cue, and I missed it. This is definitely going to be a throwaway lap. Yeah, it makes it, without that clipping there, it makes it a lot easier. See, here's all the stash lines. You can see those now. That's what I started stashing. Oh man, this is going to be a throwaway as well. You want to do it as full out as you can. Yeah, this is definitely going to be a throwaway. I'm dorking this lap too. But it gives you somewhat of an idea of what needs to happen. You got to have a nice smooth line. Good setup under you does help as well. Oh my goodness. I'm screwing this up all together. Yeah, this is going to be a throwaway lap as well. It's still stashing. I normally do this, you know, pretty quiet, you know, as far as like, I don't have a lot. I'm not trying to stream and explain things, I guess, as I'm doing it, so that's part of my excuse for dorking this lap. So this is going to be a throwaway for sure. Gotta slow up for that. Alright, I'm going to try ready myself up to do a halfway decent lap here now. Way up. Yeah, I can get through that area a lot better now with all that clipping. That's for sure. Whoa, it up here, go way out this way. Speed it up a little bit. I kind of hit the edge there a little bit. Not as bad. A little out of shape there. A little whip-de-doo there. Oh, so the fact that a lot of the different areas of the track you can overshoot, just like I did here almost again, that shows the difference between, you know, how much quote-unquote racing surface you actually have. Because you can get way out of shape and still overshoot a lot of the corners. Man, that's pushed so bad up in that wall. I don't know why it's doing that. Oh man, I can't get over how much easier that is to get through that area. Having that little bit of a visual there. So much better. Whoa, it up here to get through the chicane. Whoa, it up here to get through this part. Turn 1. Shift it down and get some more speed. Kind of using that white line more. That's a little better. Yeah, it's not too much. Kind of cutting it in a little too close to the corner there. I got it too out of shape there. I don't like how I got through that corner. Keep darking that corner up now. Alright. Probably do another lap. Whoa. Yeah, definitely do another lap. Shifted too far down. Sorry for the ads. Oh, gotta whoa it up. Oh man, I got through there too. I'm definitely gonna do another lap. So, but you get the idea as far as how this works. So you can do as many laps as you need, and once you're satisfied with the lap, just stop the stashing. It's kind of the rule of thumb here. The fact that I'm trying to do this and trying to explain things makes it a little tougher. That's my excuse. A lot of this is easier to do when you don't have any distractions. But you can kind of use the previous line that you laid down as somewhat of a guide, you know, for what to shoot for. I am not a road course driver at all. I'll tell you, I got a lot of practice on this one though, that's for sure. Alright, this is a little bit better. Okay. Didn't dork that corner quite as bad. The setup is not perfect either. I will admit. It's not perfect. It does need some work, but it's been a pretty good. It's pretty decent. Oh man, it drifted too much to the wall. Shit. I didn't want to drift that much. Kind of drifted too much of that wall, so I might do another lap. So far, I'm not too bad. Blow it up into the chicane. Yeah, I got way out of shape there in that last lap. A little bit out of shape there. Maybe too much brake in there. I will catch up on chat once I finish my lap here. Apologize for ignoring. I'm not ignoring you. I see it. Just kind of focusing on my lap here. It's a pretty slow course when you think about it. The only place it really gets super fast is on the main oval. That's the really fast part. Oh my god, I got way out of shape there. I'm trying to compensate, I guess, for this drifting towards the wall too. Oh, I just blew the engine up. Oh crap. Shifted down too far. Alright, so that's a done cause. But you get the idea as far as what, once you get a lap down there, you know, that you're happy with, as far as not getting too close to the wall and things like that. That's what you want to do. So I had to end that abruptly, obviously, because I shifted down too far and I blew the engine. So, yep. Okay, you're just giving yourself shots. Yeah, let me catch up on chat there. So hot rod, yeah, brings up a good point. Could drive at pace speed. At ideal, copy that to orange. Then wait a minute. But don't save. Then try to drive that orange. Yeah, that's true too. So what James is suggesting, and that's probably a good point. What you could do, and I might even actually do that. Lay down a slow, you know, like a pace lap, like you said, that's slow, the line you want to follow. So that way the orange that you see, as far as to put, don't save it, just put it into the working reflap. You don't have to save it, you can just, you know, transfer it over there. In fact, let me go through that motion here really quick. So what I can do, let me go ahead, let me get out of this, and I'll come back in. Just reset this. This is the approach I always find useful, to do it this way instead of alright, so let's go ahead, go back in here. So what James is suggesting there, and this is, like I said, this is a very good point, and I'll go through this here really quick. I'm going to bring up the reflap utility again. So do the Control Alt left shift tilde. That brings it up, and it'll show populate, initiate up in the top left. Okay. And then once you do that, let me put this in this view. I need to do Control tilde to bring the working reflap. So the initial reflap, or the initial working reflap that comes into play, is this one, which is following the center line. That's where that populates. So what you can do at this point, like if I wanted to stash, so I'm going to do that. I'm going to turn on the stashing, so it's yellow. And this doesn't matter. I can do that this way. Since I'm not going to save this, I'm just going to move it to the working reflap. So I'm going to basically just go as slow as I need to have a line to follow, so that when I'm trying to stash my race LP, I'll have a line to follow. So I can do this as slow as I need to, you know, like pace, speed, whatever. And this will be the line that I'll follow as far as when I'm trying to stash my race LP. And that should have been what I should have done in the first place, but I want to at least, you know, there's a lot of different ways you can go about this. You know, there's no right or wrong way. Just trying to give you the idea as far as what, you know, how the reflap utility works overall, at least. So what I'm doing is just doing this relatively at pace speed, maybe a little bit slower, and trying to lay myself down so I'll have something to follow. And it'll make more sense once I complete a lap here. It'll make a lot more sense once I do that, when I get to the end here. Once I shift the stash line over to the working reflap, you'll see exactly what I mean. Might have went a little too low there. I'll give it a try though. See, the fact that when you do it this way, you can go as slow as you need to, like I said, slow or fast as you need to get the trajectory you want to be able to follow. So this is where that's interesting. I don't know why it's populating there, but we're gonna go all the way up to the start-finish line. Slow this up a little bit. Sometimes you'll find that you have to go a little bit slower so that you don't drift too far. because you have to deal with banking and all that stuff. So we want to go through this chicane. Kind of stay in the middle here. Like so. Come back out this way. And then what I can do at this point is I can turn stashing off. Now, what I do from here, now that the stashing off, all I can do is move that stash, the stash line, the yellow triangles, over to my working reflap. And the way you can do that is to just do the / on your keyboard, and that'll move that over to that. Now I've got a line I can follow. I didn't save this. It's just on the working reflap now. I haven't saved it yet. There's a, in order to save it, then you want to do a control / I believe. I just want to double check this. Yes, control / would save that file. Would save that. I don't want to do that, but that's the step you would take. So with it done this way now I have a line I can follow. But see, this is still not right because this is cutting into the grass. So I have to do this again. But it gives you an idea. So let me go ahead and do this over. I'm going to back this up. And we're going to stash another line. Yeah, because the fact that that's cutting over, way over like it is, that's not the line I want to follow when I'm trying to do my race LP. So I'm going to go back here to the start finish line. I always like to use, and it's not right or wrong, but as far as some type of point of reference which works better, which makes sense and logical, is to use the start finish line as far as when you turn your stashing on or off. So I'm going to do this again. I'm going to turn on the stashing. Oops, I got to go into drive. Tell me. Okay, there we go. So now we're going to do one more lap here so we can get a proper trajectory through turn 1 here. Because when I turned it on, I was not in the right spot. So I want to go through here. So you can see that's roughly where I started initially. So that's why it's coming out of the pits back out onto here. So it does mimic your movements pretty well. So I'm going to kind of follow most of this the same. The only thing I really needed to fix was that entry into turn 1. Going by the pits there. So I'm going to take this a little bit slower. Just kind of make sure I don't wobble too much, I guess, or wander too far from that path. It's okay if it's off a little bit at this point. It doesn't have to be exactly on that point. Take this a little slow so we can get the right trajectory through that corner. So I'm hoping everybody's getting, somewhat of the ideas what we're trying to accomplish here by doing it this way. So you know how you you're able to turn on the race line as far as the best race line when you're in the sim itself? This is the same idea. As far as being able to stash your initial race LP, it's the same idea. Only you're using a reflap instead of pushing the R key within the sim itself to get that best race line. This is the same idea. But you're able to create that line yourself by using the reflap utility. Alright, let's go through the bus stop here. Nice. So far so good. Yeah, at this point, once we get to the start finish line, we can be able to turn it off, and we should have a pretty decent line to follow. Alright, we're coming up to the end here. So we'll go through the chicane. And we still got some issues with that entrance to that chicane as far as it being a little too high there, but at least the clipping is gone. Alright, so now I'm going to turn stashing off. And now I'm going to do / on that one. That'll move that over. So now I have my race line as far as what I want to follow. So I'm going to switch my view. I'm going to back it up here. get back to the start-finish line. There we go. And I'm going to start stashing. Now, again, there's no right or wrong time that you want to turn stashing on. Usually the approach I take to it, that I found that works well, get yourself a good lap in first, and then get to the start-finish line, and then turn your stashing on. But you can do it the way I just did it right now. But see, now I got a line to follow. See, I can follow this line as far as how to navigate through the corners. So this is kind of a best line created, you know, using the reflap utility. Yeah, see, I'm cutting that corner. I keep doing that. I cut that corner way too much, regardless of having some type of reference. That's just driver error. Yeah, this is going to be a throwaway lap for sure. Kind of, oh man, why does that push so bad right there? That's probably just poor setup. Probably need a little work on the setup. That's what I'm going to blame that on. Yeah, it pushes really bad in the setup there. It's designed more to take the flat corners, you know, in the infield better than it is. Oh man, overshot that a little bit. That's definitely a throwaway lap. Definitely a throwaway lap. So you can see I'm stashing the yellow cones, triangles or whatever. Whoa, overshot that one a little bit. This is definitely a throwaway lap. So even with having that reference, it's not going to guarantee you that you're going to get through the corners right. A lot of it does have to do with setup as well. Setup is key. You got to have a good setup. So it does help. Oh man, I overshot that too. It does help tremendously to have a good setup under you before doing this step. This is definitely proving not to be a very good setup. I mean, it needs some work. And it's been tough, you know, to kind of find something that balances between the banking on the main oval as well as the flat on the it's not real easy as far as to get a proper amount of camber and all that stuff in the front end and what have you. A lot of shape there. This is our second lap. Oh, overshot that a little bit. And like I said, you can do this as many times as you need to until you get a lap that you're satisfied with, and you can turn the stashing off, move that over the working reflap, and then save it once you're satisfied. But this is the process. Setup does need a lot of work, though. It's really slow through there early. And I watched a lot of footage of the actual NASCAR race. It is pretty slow through a lot of those turns in the infield. Where it's the fastest is on the main oval here. Up until you get to the bus stop and the chicane. Man, it drifts so bad right there. It's crazy. Alright. Probably end up doing another lap. Trying not to overshoot this chicane here. And I did it again. Son of a gun. Trying to take too much speed into that. It's definitely a lot easier to navigate it though, as far as that visual, having that visual there as far as where you need to go. And the lack of that clipping, that's for sure. I could do this for days you know, as far as just trying to get it perfect. And this is what you'd have to do to get a good race LP. This is what happens. This is what you gotta do. Doesn't matter which track. It's pretty involved. So it's like, unless you got a good setup under you, and number one, that's the key, having a good setup. You got to be able to drive it, you know, as the track is intended, without a lot of, you know, major bobbing and weaving, I guess, and, you know, because whatever you have present in your potential LP is gonna be, that's the way the AI is gonna react. So in order to get them to not do any adverse reactions, it's going to take you probably several laps, I guess, to get, you know, a decent LP. But this is the only, the fact that the race LP is the only one that you need to get down pat. Yeah, I overshot that way too much. All right. So I'm not going to try. I'm going to turn stashing off. You get the idea anyway, as far as how this works. And then you would just do your / based on the key commands and reflap, and then you can even go so far, I guess, to check your progress here. So this is the lap that I put down. So if there's a problem in it, if it's too close to the wall, if it's got you know, if it's just way out of shape, if it's not following the line that you intended, start stashing again. But key point that I'll make, you know, as I keep mentioning, is start at a reference, you know, at a reference point like the start-finish line that, you know, that makes sense. And regardless if you do a, you know, kind of a rolling start or just a standing start, it doesn't really matter. Usually the approach that I'll take to it that seems to make sense to me is at least put a lap under myself and get the tires warmed up and what have you. You know, and this all depends on having a good setup applied and all that good stuff too. But and then start the stashing once you've got that initial warm-up lap in there. So once you come out of the pits, get all the way to the start-finish line, you know, get a good warm-up lap underneath you, and then start your stashing. That's usually the approach I'll take, and that's not right or wrong. You can do a standing start, like I said. But see, all I'm doing right now is just observing, I guess, my last lap that I stashed and moved over to the working reflap by the press of the / kind of cut in out of that there a little bit. So this is something I'm not going to save, that's for sure. Kind of drifted too far to the turn, to the outside wall there. Plus, I think I overshot this, and that's going to show. Yep, I overshot that. That's no good. So yeah, I would have to restash it again. So the fact that I haven't saved it, I can get to the start-finish line. I can do a standing start and just start stashing it again. So hopefully that's enough information to let y'all know as far as how to get to lay down, I guess, the race LP, which is the most important. Every other LP that you do, be it your pit LPs and your min and max race LPs, those can be done as, you know, just at pace speed, just like I was showing to get this that initial line down. Those don't matter. It doesn't store all that information for braking and acceleration and what have you. So with all that being said, I think that's about all I necessarily want to go over with tonight. So I hope that's enough information to get you off and running, get things working. Yeah, I'm not going to save any of that progress there. I just wanted to show that. I was hoping maybe to actually get some decent LPs down, but I think with trying to explain it as I'm doing it, it's a little distracting. I find it much easier to be able to do those without any distractions, as far as trying to, like I said, as far as trying to explain things as I'm doing it. So these ads are getting bad. Apologize for the ads. Okay, that was a short one, not too bad. Alright, so again, I didn't save any of that information, but what would happen if I would have done so, and I've shown this already, we've made some preliminary LPs before. As you save those LPs, when you do the control /, it would populate those in here in successive order as far as reflap 0, 1, 2, and so on. So you would have to rename those appropriately to which LP that it relates to. So like, you know, going into it, when you lay them down, as far as like your initial LP should be your race LP. So that's most likely always going to be your reflap 0. Okay. And then from there, once you got that down, you're satisfied with that one and saved to reflap 0. Then you can go ahead and do your min and max race. I usually will do race LP first, which will translate into the race line. That's probably a fair mention too. You can make a copy of that race LP and make that as a race line, which will allow for populating the best race line when you go into the simulation by the depress of the R key. That's usually a direct copy of the race LP. From there, after getting the race LP and the reflap 0, I'll do the max race, which is the inside line. That's closer to the apron. After that, and you can do that at pace speed if you want. Save that. That'll be reflap 1. Your reflap 2 will usually translate into your min race, which will be the outside line, closer to the outside wall. Those will be the first initial ones. Now you could do it any way you choose, as far as if you want to do the pit LPs first, then those would be much the same way as your race LP. Your reflap 0 could be your pit 0 LP. Your min race would be, or your min pit would be your reflap 1, and then your reflap 2 would be, you know, vice versa. But you can do it in any order you'd like. But just bottom line is keep track of which one is which, and if you have to, write it down or what have you to make sure that you know which one, because it's easy to get those mixed up. And if you do flip-flop those LPs, it will show as far as how the AI respond. They will definitely let you know that you've done it wrong, as far as to put the max race or the min race in the wrong position, as opposed to the min pit and the max pit. Max pit, bottom line, the main rule of thumb there, max is inside. That's my general reference that I do. That's just through experience. That's what I've come to understand. Min is outside. That's how you relate that. And then everything else is in the middle. So hopefully that helps explain a little bit as far as how to differentiate, I guess, as far as how those things work. Again, this is about all I had to go over with. I was really hoping to not have to go over and make those as many adjustments that I had to with that chicane object, but yeah, that is what it was. So we kind of dealt with it as we go. It's still got some issues with it. I'm gonna probably adjust a lot of that things. I'll let everybody know as far as the progress of that. I'll kind of post and all the other be it the Discord and all Spline Design's Facebook group page and what have you, as far as progress I'm making on those adjustments. I'm not going to bore everybody to death as far as that. There's going to be a lot of nitpicking, just some OCD type of stuff, I guess, to have to adjust to that type of thing. But yeah, definitely the fact that we've had to apply so much adjustment to that chicane object is not really normal, I guess. Usually it's a lot more straightforward than what we've been having to deal with, and I think a lot of it does have to do with the fact that because we were applying this much the same fashion with the LiDAR, trying to get my words together here, because we're using the LiDAR and the way the height data is affecting how that performs. That's the only thing I can think of as far as why it's causing so much of an issue. Not 100% sure. I'll have to look into that, and I'll keep everybody informed as far as how that's going for that. But hope everybody enjoyed the stream. I do hope to see y'all next time. I'm starting to get famished here. I need some foods in me. So again, like I said, I appreciate everybody stopping by here. Do feel free to check out all the social medias. I'm getting your last shots in there as we do. One of the new commands that I put in here, there's all the social media links to all the things as far as where I post, as far as when the streams go live. Feel free, I guess, to chime in on any one of those if you choose. I do, like I said, I do post regularly, or try to, in those areas. Again, like as far as when the streams go live and everything going on off stream. So feel free to chime in on those at your leisure. And also, Bots being so kind, I guess, to give you the link to the Spline Designs Studios landing page. You can feel free to check out the intro on that too. It's pretty cool. That's kind of just like it says, it's the landing page to get to the SDS site. Feel free to also check out all the informations that we've made available for everything related to Enter 2003, as I just showed. If there's something, let me know, or let us know as far as like if there's information that you're not seeing in there that you would like to see in there. We really want to make this as useful as possible to make all your experiences with building a track for Enter 2003 or any other track for that matter much more easier. So
they search millions of homes to find your perfect.
I feel like I can go on and on and on, but I appreciate very much all those that did
Find vacation homes that match you.
Freaking ads. Go away. Alright, there we go. I might have to look into some more some different ambient music. Too many ads in that one. I'm not really 100% happy with that. But yeah, all those that have been lurking in the chat, you got the social medias there. I'm going to catch up on chat here. Yeah, Wingo, man. So you finally got yourself some units there. Good. Save those up. I'll be coming up on probably a fair mention here, and I know I've mentioned this all week long. The 1-year anniversary to my being affiliated on Twitch is coming, vastly approaching. It's coming first week of April, so it's going to be very soon. And the fact that I have accomplished quite a few goals as far as many new followers since I've started, and many new people, and I want to thank everybody, I guess, for doing that. I intend to want to do some type of celebration of sorts to kind of show my appreciation, I guess, for the support of the channel and everything I got going on, both in Spline Designs as well as everything, the gaming stuff, I guess, on the channel for me personally, as well as everything else. So tune in for that. I'll keep everybody informed as far as what I would potentially provide, I guess, for something in the form of a celebration, I guess, of that. Just to just to show my appreciation for that. My Twitch link in SDS, is it? Oh, is that one of them? That's probably one of them I goofed up, huh? Yeah, since the name change there. Yeah, I appreciate that, James. I'll have to look into that. If that's probably still going to the old channel. Yeah, so we did have a name change to the channel to kind of conform a little bit to branding, I guess, a little bit. The direction I tend to want to go, I guess, with this affiliation with Twitch. Kind of mixing it up a little bit with a little bit of creativity aspect as well as the gaming. Hoping to bring a lot more things than just the modeling, I guess, to it. That's a huge that's going to be a huge primary thing, I guess, to do on the channel, but I also want to provide a little bit of gaming entertainment as well too. So stay tuned for all that. So again, I can't thank everybody enough for stopping in here. Torch, Racer James, you've been in, you two in particular have been a huge impact, I guess, of what I've been able to accomplish here, and I appreciate that very, very much. Everybody else that's lurking in the chat that hasn't necessarily chimed in there, appreciate you all as well. That does help the channel very, very much. Realizing you have real life things going on, I guess, as well. So I appreciate you just watching, even in the shadows. Can't say enough about that. But all right, just checking some of the socials out here just to make sure that everything's good. Feel free to stick around for the host once the stream ends, and I hope to see you all again next time. Hit that follow button and get the notifications, or Get on all the socials, the social medias, the tweeters, the discords, and whatever. But I will see you all next time. Thank you.